Obtaining 10x rewards. Reincarnated into a novel as a side character. By Winterdragon_1. Chapter 171 Realization and Panic. The enemies have already infiltrated inside through the barrier. His heart sank as the realization settled in. The room felt colder, the walls seeming to close in as he absorbed the full weight of the situation. The enemy was undoubtedly powerful, and they were most likely the targets. Either it was a kidnapping to threaten the 5 major clans or simply a move to eliminate them all once and for all. Whatever it was, nothing good was going to happen. He turned around quickly and surveyed the hall. It was empty. Eerily empty aside from them. Everyone, let's get inside. The hall is not safe. It is likely that the enemy has already entered the barrier surrounding the mountain and is heading right where we are. What? Amber exclaimed in panic. We can't waste time, we need to go as deep inside as possible, possibly around the mountains, to make the enemy detection as difficult as possible. Before they could ask any questions, Evelyn cut in with an equally serious voice. Guys, no time for questions, we should just do as he says. Oliver seems sure of it, right, Oliver? She asked. Right, hurry up now. Fuck. The group quickly entered through the door, locking it behind them. Amber quickly activated the special lock on the door. It was the only entry to enter the mountains from the hall. They quickly started running inside as fast as they could without even stopping or looking back for a second. The sound of their hurried footsteps echoed ominously through the narrow corridor, adding to the tension. Wait! Amber shouted, making the group pause. What happened? Daniel asked her. They were close to exiting into the back mountains. Let me set up a special array here, she said. We don't have time for that, Oliver urged. Don't worry, it won't take long. It's already been inscribed onto scrolls. Just a few moments. Amber quickly kneeled down and took out a special scroll. With some modifications to it, the scroll started to glow in a bright color before a translucent array formed on the ground and then disappeared. It's a special trap array. If the enemies follow us, it will automatically activate and stop them. With that, they quickly escaped back into the mountains. Oliver didn't lead them towards the dorms at all. The dorms were very close to the hall, and it was a risky option. Boom! They heard a loud booming sound behind them. The group's expressions paled as this was most likely the arrays they had set on the door locks. The enemies were already behind them. Fuck! How do they know where we are going? Oliver cursed as he used cosmic void gaze to see something terrifying in the distance. There were 3 individuals emitting a terrifying black aspera following the path they had used to escape. They were following the exact same path as they did, almost as if they were somehow tracking them. Did they put a tracking mark on any of us before coming here? He thought darkly. This was the only possible scenario. Just the amount of aspera radiating from their bodies alone was overbearing. He didn't think that they would be a match for those 3 individuals following after them. Amber. He called out to the girl who looked towards him. Do you know how to activate a teleportation array? She was the only one among them with some prior knowledge about arrays and runes. Her eyes trembled slightly as she understood what he was expecting from her. However, she could only shake her head in defeat. I don't. It's a very high-level and complex array. I only know a little about basic arrays. This is almost a dead end, Oliver thought severely. How many life-saving treasures do you guys have? Does any of you have a space attribute or related life-saving artifact? Oliver questioned the group. He knew such rare artifacts existed in this world that could save the lives of their users by teleporting them far away from danger. I have one, but it requires to be charged and I did not bother filling it with aspera. Amber shook her head, she never expected their situation to become so worse. Clearly their clans hadn't thought about it either. Sigfur and Allison held a great deal of influence and reputation in the exorcist world. It felt natural for the clans to entrust them with their security. The fact that Allison was a neutral party and did not have a biased opinion towards any clan further let the clans trust her more. Otherwise, no matter how friendly two clans were, they would never leave their heirs alone with the other without proper security. With Allison being in the center, it assured clans that the other clans would not be able to interfere with their heirs' training and influence things, and everything will be under supervision of Sigfur and Allison. However, Allison was not present on the mountain at the moment. She had gone with Bella to train her special element. There was a silence in the group as they looked at each other. "None of you have it?" Oliver sighed. It was understandable. However, he did not lose hope. There were many things he could do. "It doesn't look like any of us have them. I have heard of such artifacts from my mother. I am sure our clans could have never expected that we would be attacked in such a place, and that too under the eyes of Elder Sigfur and Teacher Allison," Amber said with a wry smile. "Listen, the enemy cannot be avoided. The Elder is busy with the enemies from outside, and we can only depend on ourselves. Don't hesitate to use whatever artifacts you have. We are going to face them head-on." The gravity of Oliver's words settled heavily on everyone, their faces set with grim determination. "Do you have a plan?" Evelyn asked with determined eyes. She was ready to fight. "Fuck yes. I ain't scared of no one." "Count me in," Daniel smirked and said. "All right then, I don't really call it a plan, but we will be taking them unprepared. Assuming there are 3 intruders, we will engage them together in pairs." "Wait, what if there are more than 3? Why only 3? Alfonso suddenly asked. Oliver's brow furrowed as he answered, "If there are more than 3, we'll have to adapt. For now, let's focus on the immediate threat. We can reassess if needed." Chapter 172. Also, I am just assuming, it's likely that their numbers are around just this much. Otherwise, the Elder would have long been alerted if so many intruders were trying to breach his barrier. And since we have already worked together in teams, we all know how it's going to work." Alfonso nodded and glanced at Amber, who also nodded her head in agreement. "All right then, let's scatter," he said before they all turned to leave in different directions while Alfonso went along with Evelyn. "A lock array?" The woman in dark robes from before remarked, amused, as she examined the broken door before her. "Humph, do they really think that such cheap tactics could deter us from pursuing them?" the burly man said arrogantly. "Childish behavior," commented the man with a short height while he inspected the broken door and searched for any hidden traps but found none. "I can sense them already." "They are not far from us," said the short man. "Around 6 individuals, likely around rank 1 at best from their auras," the woman said slyly as she licked her lips in excitement. "With the 3 of us working together, even 60 rank 1 exorcists are nothing," the burly man declared in a deep voice. "Follow them." The woman took out a compass and began locating where the exorcist with the disaster beast egg was and started following the directions. "Wait a moment." The short man in dark robes suddenly stopped them, halting everyone along. "What happened?" The burly man couldn't help but frown. He had never held an appreciation for the short fellow. Not only was this man too cowardly but also tended to think about things a bit too much. He was always on guard and never fought head-on like real men. He disdained this man. "There is a strange-looking array ahead of us. It's been concealed well. I would have almost missed it had it not been for the sloppy setup. It looks like a trap set up by the exorcists, but due to lack of time, they weren't able to fix it up properly." The short man concluded his analysis. "This?" The woman paused and waved her hand, sending dark Aspera towards the point where the hidden array was supposed to be. "It's indeed a trap." And sure enough, the dark Aspera quickly revealed the hidden array that was drawn on the floor. "Humph. So what if it's a trap? In front of brute strength, this is nothing but a childish trick." Not wanting to admit that the short man was right this time as well, the burly man walked right to the array. "What are you doing? Stop." The duo's expression changed when they saw the burly man approach the array without a care. While they did not doubt his strength, it was simply a foolish thought to just walk right into a trap when they could avoid it or destroy it from afar. "Shut up. Be a man like me. Such tricks are useless against me." However, just as the burly man confidently stepped inside the array, ready to break it apart with his brute force, something no one had expected happened. The instant his feet landed on the array, it buzzed to life and was instantly activated. The next moment a dense green light started surrounding the man. The burly man glanced around in confusion for a moment before a strong wave of dizziness washed over him. Bang! He then instantly collapsed to the ground like a lifeless body. Fuck! This muscle-headed idiot. Did he die? The short man cursed. Despite having been warned beforehand and even after locating the trap, one of them was captured even before they could do anything. What sort of idiotic team was this? How did he get into the mission? The woman asked in a dark voice. She couldn't fathom how such a foolish man had managed to get selected for such an important mission. I don't know. The green light is blocking my senses. I can't tell whether this bastard is dead or just unconscious. This fucker has made the mission more difficult. What do we do now? The woman questioned. I suggest we destroy the array first, the short man said. Indeed. Even if he's alive right now, when the array is destroyed, he will die. We can't leave anything behind. Or. The woman paused before adding. We deal with exorcists inside first, get the egg and then see if he still remains in this state. And even if by then he is still like this, we kill him, she suggested. Such a waste of the sex resources, the other man snorted in disdain. While this burly man had very few equals when it came to brute physical force, he was as weak as an ant against poison or spells. But since the muscle-headed man was brain-dead due to the excessive amount of muscles in his brain, he did not realize this and would have anyhow died a pitiful death. Truly an orc mentality. The man thought this and shook his head. Let's enter. We have to wrap this up as soon as possible. They are close yet scattered all around. The woman said, her robes flickering in the wind. The one with the disaster beast egg is on the right. I will handle him. You go and kill the others. We can't leave behind any witnesses only for the Mystic Purge clan to track us later on, she said before quickly heading to the east, the direction where Oliver was supposed to be. TCH, fucking bitch, always deciding on her own, the man snorted and headed west to eliminate all the others. Who are you? Sigvar asked in a calm, deep voice. The air behind him was trembling under his aspera. Right now, he was facing a man whose face and body were entirely covered in a dark cloak with strange patterns. Judging from your unsightly aspera and those patterns, I assume you belong to the Unholy Sun sect? The black-hooded man slowly took off his hood, revealing his facial features to Sigvar. Sigvar's pupils dilated as he recognized the man, and a surge of hatred burst out from his heart. He didn't even need a moment to recognize the man. Chapter 173. The black-hooded man slowly took off his hood, revealing his facial features to Sigvar. You are indeed right. I am Jetiya, one of the 12 saints of the Unholy Sun sect. Jetiya. Sigvar's body trembled with rage. He recognized the name very well. Not only him, in fact, but most of the exorcists would be aware of him. Among the exorcists, the list of the 12 saints of the famous heretic sects was quite infamous. Among all the heretic groups, the Unholy Sun sect was particularly infamous for its dangerous deeds and the sins they had committed. The number of exorcists that had died at their hands was in the tens of thousands, and the innocent civilians and normal humans sacrificed by them had long surpassed the 100,000 mark. The Exorcist Union had already issued warrants for them, and every single saint had an enormous bounty placed on their heads. The bounty was not only limited to money but also included various treasures. The Unholy Sun sect had very dark and strict requirements for selecting the saints from numerous other heretics. They usually had the saint candidates compete. The more terrible a sin one commits or the more damage one causes to humanity, the more likely they were to become a saint. Jetiya, the man in front of him, was the youngest person to ever become the saint of the Unholy Sun sect. He was infamous for planning mass genocides. Over 12 towns were sacrificed by him to the demons in one night. He had killed many potential exorcists and caused a lot of damage. In particular, he was known to hunt down and slaughter specific high-ranking targets, most of which were either exorcists or related to them. The atrocities that Jettia had committed were numerous, and he was to be killed on sight. All exorcists from the Union were ordered as such. He was a heretic that had to be exorcised on sight. There was no redemption for him. He was one of the most wanted criminals of humanity. Sigfur had personally heard of his comrades suffering at the hands of Jettia. The death of his comrades' beloved families and his friends further fueled his rage. Very well, Jettia, I have been looking all over for you. To think you will deliver yourself to me. Today, I will collect your head and use it to set an example for all heretics. Sigfur stated firmly as the aura behind him exploded. Jettia, on the other hand, looked at him mockingly and asked, I can see you have a great deal of hatred towards me. Is it revenge that you seek? Did I kill your family or maybe your lover? Bastard, don't dare mention them with your soiled tongue. Sigfur waved his hand, and a grey-colored spear made out of aspera launched toward Jettia at a terrifyingly fast speed. Jettia saw this with narrowed eyes and used his dark aspera to counter the incoming spear, making it disperse with a loud booming sound. The ground beneath them shook from the impact, dust rising into the air like a storm cloud. I don't really remember my victims. Too bad for you that the killer of your relatives doesn't even remember their names. Ha ha ha. Sigfur did not say anything, his heart was beating with anger. He clasped his hands together, and the next moment, 20 talismans floated in front of him. Each talisman was inscribed with unknown runes that were pulsing with life and aspera. Jettia frowned when he saw that. Although he didn't know what the talismans were for, one thing he knew was that the attack was going to be quite dangerous. He had already sensed the latter's strength and concluded Sigfur to be at the peak of rank 3, extremely close to breaking through to rank 4. He could not afford to be careless with this old man, or his head would really be sent flying. I have to get him into the array without him noticing. He thought deeply. Other than that, there was no other way to deter Sigfur for an extended period of time. Sigfur was already using his powerful moves right from the start. The aspera gathering in those talismans was abundantly terrifying. The talismans glowed in a bright red color as 10 red beams of aspera emerged from them. Sigfur made a hand gesture, his eyes focused and killing intent visible in them. Go. He directly controlled those destructive red streaks with his fingers. All of them were aimed at Jettia. Humph. Jettia sneered, as he made a hand gesture himself, and soon a huge hexagonal surface emerged behind his back. The red streaks, when close to him, were suddenly diverted and sucked into the hexagonal surface behind. Sigfur was not surprised. He instead took out a huge wooden board from his storage artifact and channeled his aspera into it. The wooden board floated in the air, and characters made out of black ink started appearing on the board. The board let out a whizzing sound as the hexagonal silhouette reacted to the board. It trembled before cracks started appearing in it, and soon it crumbled like broken glass. Sigfur did not allow Jettia to react and attacked him barehanded. His fists moved with the speed of a striking serpent, each blow aimed with deadly precision. Jettia quickly dodged the incoming fast punch, but Sigfur did not stop and kept attacking. Soon the two of them were locked in a deadly hand-to-hand combat. Jettia would retreat back with every attack from Sigfur. He could feel Sigfur's explosive strength. His bones were starting to sting in pain. He had long realized that Sigfur was stronger than him, and to truly be able to kill Sigfur, he had been subtly luring the latter towards the hidden killer array. Sigfur had a furious look on his face. He was radiating a very strong killing intent towards Jettia, wanting to tear him apart as soon as possible. He was in so much rage that he didn't even realize when they had moved far away from the mountain that he was supposed to guard and the children he was tasked to protect. A cold, calculating look flickered briefly in Jettia's eyes as he glanced at the ground beneath them, ensuring they were close to the array's activation point. Die. Sigfur's fist this time did not miss and connected with the man's chest, throwing Jettia back and crashing into the rocky ground. Chapter 174. He coughed up but quickly made some distance. Blood speckled the ground where he stood moments before, his breaths ragged and shallow. The attack just now had damaged him, and his internal organs were not in good shape. Sigfur was extremely close to becoming a rank 4 exorcist, while Jettia was still in rank 3 in terms of strength. Not only that, Sigfur was most likely a physical exorcist, which explained why his punches were so powerful and terrifying. But he did not show a hint of worry now. They were already inside the killer array. Haha, I have no words, impressive, you are a very skilled exorcist, Jettia praised, but Sigfur had no mood to listen to him. Just as he was about to launch another attack, he froze in his tracks. He instantly focused down below on the ground, his expression changing drastically as he saw an array drawn in blood below him appear. The sight of crimson lines, pulsating with a sinister glow, made his heart skip a beat. It was then he heard Jettia's voice, I truly might have died today at your hands if not for the killer array I specially prepared in case of emergency. And now look, it did come in handy. Sigfur's anger skyrocketed as he released a dense aspera to destroy the array. However, the moment his aspera was released, the array sucked all of it quickly, and in return, dark red chains suddenly pierced through his body. Ku-dash! Sigfur grunted as he looked at the red chains with a difficult expression. The chains, cold and unyielding, snaked through his flesh, leaving trails of agony in their wake. They were leaking out a dark aspera while they invaded his defenses, slowly trying to corrupt his pure aspera. It was clear that if he let this continue, he would be killed in the end. He exerted a lot of force, and the chains started to rumble. More and more chains rose from the array, binding him down. But he kept moving, forcefully starting to tear the chains apart, with no care for his own body. Jettia chuckled darkly, enjoy the power of my killer array. Even if you manage to escape the array, you will no longer be in a state to be my match. Wait here for me to return after I finish my mission. Mission? Sigfur's brows furrowed as he heard the word. They are targeting the heirs. He didn't need to think long before he realized what they were planning. Oh? Looks like you have realized our grand plan too? How do you feel now? Jettia asked in a mocking voice, enjoying Sigfur's expressions. Jettia! Don't you dare touch the kids! Sigfur roared in anger. Kids? However, Jettia frowned. What did he mean by that? Sigfur yelled at him, don't dare lay your hands on the kids. Are you prepared to face the wrath of the 5 major clans at once? Hearing Sigfur's words, Jettia could not help but shudder slightly. Wrath of 5 major clans all at once? What was going on? The sect master had informed him how the exorcist was related to the Mystic Purge clan and that they were going to great lengths to obtain the egg. So why would all the 5 major clans be angry if they only mess with one clan? Whatever he thought clearly did not make any sense. It was clear to him that neither the clans nor the exorcist with the bracelet of the demonic ghost were aware of the egg. If they had been aware, then they would not have let the egg leave the clan's boundaries in the first place. What do you mean? Jettia asked in a deep voice this time. Sigfur menacingly struggled with the snake-like grip of the red chains as they too struggled to pierce his tougher-than-steel body. Don't play dumb, you bastard. The heirs of the clan cannot be touched by anyone unless they want to be hunted to the ends of the world. Heirs? Jettia's ears twitched as he heard it. Heirs, kids, the egg. It did not take long for Jettia to put 2 and 2 together, and he soon connected all the dots. Dash. Ha ha ha. Who could have thought that things will turn so interesting? Ha ha ha. To think that the heir of the Mystic Purge clan would be the one we were after. So amusing, so very amusing. Jettia pulled at his hair as his eyes turned crazed, his laughter echoing maniacally. Not only was the heir of the Mystic Purge clan there, but along with that, there were heirs from other major clans as well. All of them in one single place. It could not be any better than this. If he really killed them all, then his fame and name would skyrocket all around the world, not just in human territories but also in demonic lands too. He might finally become the first to be born as a demon by the grace of the higher-up. Even if he did not kill those kids, he could still kidnap them and threaten the clan for anything. Of course, it was incredibly risky to attack an heir. Not only were they guarded extremely well, but they also had all sorts of weird artifacts with them. But looking at Sigfor's deadly expression, he was sure that those kids were not under supervision at the moment or were helpless right now. He had hit a jackpot this time. To think that the heir of the Mystic Purge clan would come into the possession of the egg of the disaster beast? How did that even happen? He didn't know, but he could always interrogate such details later. Well then, I bid you farewell. We might never meet after this. Jettia said as his eyes turned sinister, since you will be dead by then. Stop right there and fight me. Sigfor could not contain his rage at that and tried to delay the situation. I wonder if they have already killed them or not. Jettia casually wondered. His subordinates did not know about the identities of the exorcists. It would be a pity if they had killed them already. A cold sweat broke out across his forehead as dread settled in his stomach. Sigfor's expression turned ashen when he heard this. He realized that enemies had already infiltrated the barrier without him noticing. He felt so pathetic at the moment that he could not express it. Despite having strength, he let anger cloud his judgment, leading to such a situation. If something happened, the clans would not spare him and his master. Even their lives would not be worth it to satisfy the damage. Jettia soon left Sigfor alone and headed towards the mountain. Sigfor could only frustratedly tear off the chains as more and more of them kept coming out. Due to him not being able to use Aspera, he could not take out his artifacts either. He kept roaring in anger. He had to break out of this killer array and reach back to the kids as soon as possible. His master was not present at the moment. It was a truly dangerous situation. Oliver looked with bated breath at the figure of the woman closing up to him. His heart raced, and he could feel each thud against his ribs as if it were a drumbeat in the still air. He was using cosmic void gaze to see her coming towards him. He sighed. The woman was too accurate. It was likely that either he and Evelyn had something on them that allowed her to locate them so quickly. She soon reached up to them, and now they were face to face. He observed her features. The woman had dark hair and black pupils, she had thick lips and a chubby face, and she was exuding a sinister aura. Little kids, she looked at the two in surprise and then back at the compass in her hand. The needle quivered, pointing directly at them with unwavering certainty. Say, boy with white hair, you are from the Mystic Purge clan, right? She asked in a sly tone. That's right. What business do you have in chasing after us? Oliver paused and asked. He needed more information about the whole situation. Well, little boy, you seem to have picked something accidentally that belongs to us. We hold it quite dear to our hearts, she replied with a smile. Huh? It was Oliver's turn to be confused as he looked at her. He did not remember taking anything belonging to these heretics. And what was that weird-looking compass in her hands? She seemed to be looking at the compass and then back at them too before her gaze finally settled on him with a sharp focus. Oliver looked back at her, he could not understand what was this situation. He should be able to remember if he had picked something significant for these heretics to follow after them and track them down. So what was she talking about? Chapter 175. So what was she talking about? Given the compass in her hand, it seems that one of my possessions indeed has a connection to them. They must have a tracking rune embedded onto it that I might have missed. Oliver frowned and scanned through his belongings. The items he had received from the other clan heirs were mostly pills and potions, which he had already consumed, so it could not be that. It was likely that the thing was still with him. What thing might you be referring to? He asked in a low voice, contemplating something. The woman put a finger under her chin as she smiled. Well, it's no use telling you about it. You will not know of its existence after all. I will just have to kill you and search your belongings, simple. A cold sweat formed at the nape of his neck, trickling down his spine. Oliver felt a chill as he heard her casual words. It did not look like she was joking. If you can tell me what I have that belongs to you, then I can return it to you and we can settle this matter without bloodshed, he suggested. I am afraid that you would need to die since you already saw my face. After all, we can't leave any witnesses alive. She shook her head. It seems negotiations have broken down. He sighed, and in the next moment, Evelyn lunged at the woman from behind, her katana glowing brightly. The woman turned in an instant, blocking Evelyn's katana with a folding metal fan. She exclaimed, "What a surprise! I got totally fooled." The corners of her lips curled into a sardonic grin, her eyes gleaming with malice. Her tone carried a hint of sarcasm as she remarked on their obvious strategy. Evelyn, however, did not stop there. While the woman's metal fan was blocking her katana, a wave of bright light shot from her hand, directly colliding with the woman. A loud hissing voice resounded in the quiet surroundings. As the dust settled, the woman had a dark expression as she stared at Evelyn with a mix of shock and anger. "A light element user? What luck I have! We, the loyal followers of demons, loathe the light element the most. We kill any person with a light attribute no matter what," she said in a deep voice. Her skin that was hit by Evelyn's light had a small red burning wound. The woman opened up her folding fan and moved towards Evelyn at a terrifying speed, appearing in front of the little girl in the blink of an eye. Evelyn barely had time to defend herself before the woman's fan hit against her sword. Clang! A loud ringing sound reverberated through the air as Evelyn was sent flying back with a terrible force, making her crash against a nearby rock. Uck dash! She coughed up as pain shot from her spine to the rest of her body. The impact was too strong and sudden. The world spun around her, and she struggled to keep her eyes open, her vision swimming in and out of focus. Her vision blurred momentarily as she saw the woman approaching her. However, before the woman could take any further action, she dodged to her side, barely missing a sharp and air-cutting strike from another katana. My, such impatience. Little boy, how about you wait for your turn? This aunt will thoroughly play with you after I take care of your little girlfriend over there. Oliver automatically ignored her words. Naturally, he had no intention of following her words. The katana in his hand moved again. This time, he used his aspera and 3 times the physical force than before. The woman casually blocked his strike with her small metal fan once again. Her eyes held a flicker of interest as she said, "Impressive. How are you so strong? Are you a physical exorcist? Just at rank 1, you already have such strength." Oliver ignored what she said and aimed at her again, with 4 times the strength, making the woman narrow her eyes. This time she had to apply some force to prevent her wrist from dislocating as well. "Your strength increased? What is happening?" she frowned and asked. Oliver did not reply and sent a spear conjured out of water towards her. The woman clicked her fingers as a blade made of darkness crashed against the water spear, consuming the latter and still flying towards Oliver at a high speed. He used 6 thoughtful steps of spirits, and swiftly dodged. "This basic footwork? You seem to have mastered it as well. Who are you?" "So young and talented, the Mystic Purge clan indeed has some talented exorcists under them," she remarked. The words slid off him like rain on a slick surface, his focus unbroken. The basic footwork was being used so seamlessly that she thought he had mastered that thing to perfection. She was very curious about the identity of the boy in front of her. Just now, the strength he had exerted was not something a rank 1 exorcist should have. Even if he was a physical exorcist, it did not make sense. She too was a physical exorcist and thus knew the limit to which a rank 1 could persist and exert strength. However, earlier, she almost felt her joint dislocate under the tremendous force. "It seems you don't want to talk? Don't worry, your lovely aunt here will make you spill out every little bit of information," she smiled evilly. "I don't remember having such an ugly aunt," he said smoothly, and the woman's expression darkened hearing his words. A chilling aura emanating from her body directed towards Oliver. The very air around her seemed to darken, her anger palpable. Oliver was calm. He retrieved a long sword from his mind space that he had stored before coming to this place and leaped into the air, aiming for her head. He grabbed the hilt of the sword and raised his right hand, flicking 2 fingers. A burst of aspera condensed into a blue water sword shot out, instantly striking the woman and piercing through her body. Just as he tried to move his sword down on her head, he found he could not lift the sword at all. An invisible force had fixed his sword in place, causing his complexion to drastically change. He leaped away fiercely, abandoning the sword there. Midair, his hands moved swiftly, preparing an elemental attack. A rain of sharp water needles enveloped him and shot up into the sky. His right hand pointed towards the clouds, and the water needles followed the direction of his fingertips to quickly combine into a colossal water needle, 20 feet in length, about half the length of a telephone pole. He used his palm to clutch the large water needle as if it were a sword, throwing it towards the woman in black robes. The giant water needle crashed down like heavenly judgment, striking the woman in robes. The mountain trembled as the water elemental aspera spilled out in every direction, like wind blades rampaging across the landscapes, the tremendous pressure even uprooting some of the weaker trees. Evelyn, who was watching all this from her place, narrowed her eyes when suddenly her pupils dilated as she saw Oliver's expression becoming pale. The water needle that was supposed to hit the woman badly was now nothing but a puddle floating before her, unable to fall. The woman in black robes slowly lifted her head, showing a ghostly expression on her chubby face. Her skin was as pale as a person close to death. It was eerie. Suddenly, something appeared in her hands. It was a long red whip. She twisted her hand, and the whip started to tremble violently, wiggling from one side to another. An intense killing intent leaked out from her body as Oliver felt a huge pressure descending upon his shoulders, almost trying to crush him to the ground. He quickly retreated back, water elemental aspera gathering around his body like a shield. His speed increased threefold as he rapidly disappeared to the other side of the mountain, while the woman in black robes floated up in the air, her eyes as still as dead water. In the next moment, she too vanished from her spot. Evelyn was left alone, her body aching badly in multiple places. It was clear she had broken bones and had sustained injuries internally. I have to hurry up and help Oliver. She could not help but think how he might have been against that heretic. A surge of inexplicable anger rose from the depths of her heart. She felt a strong hatred towards those demonic followers. Everything was so peaceful and yet they ruined everything for her and her friends. With great difficulty and pain, she reached out to her storage artifact, a small brooch, and retrieved a healing potion, starting to take small gulps of it. Her body started to heal slowly. She knew it would take some time before she could move again and prayed that Oliver could keep up until then. Chapter 176. Oliver soon lured the woman in black robes far from Evelyn. He could not fight properly in front of her. Each step he took was measured, careful, as he led her deeper into the forest, away from his injured companion. He could feel the tension in the air, every rustle of leaves heightening his senses. Under his watchful eye, the high and mighty woman descended, which suggested that standing in the air, though cool, was quite draining. "Who are you?" The woman stared intently at Olivier and asked in a deep voice. This time, there was no slyness or playfulness in her tone. Her eyes burned with a desire for answers, reflecting the moonlight that barely pierced through the dense canopy. Oliver's strength and elemental attacks were different from any rank 1 exorcist she had seen before, even surpassing most exorcists in rank 1 alone. She couldn't see through Oliver's identity at the moment. When she had earlier tried to sense him in depth, she was surprised that she could not see through his real strength at all. It was as if he was shrouded in a veil of mystery, concealing layers upon layers of hidden power. She was not a fool to believe that the aspera he was radiating outside was all he had. He was deliberately concealing his true powers. The sheer force behind Oliver's attacks left her in disbelief. How could someone so young possess such devastating power? Oliver raised his rapier and said, "Shouldn't one introduce oneself first before inquiring about the identities of others?" Hearing this, the woman in dark robes showed a cold smile and said, "Then let me see what makes you dare to resist." She was not one to compromise, at least not with someone weaker than her. The woman tilted the whip in her hand slightly as it extended rapidly towards Oliver's direction. It was undoubtedly a special tool for exorcists. Oliver dodged the incoming whip by a hair's breadth as it smashed into the rocks behind him, shattering them into countless pieces. Quite destructive. He looked at the rocks and then back at the red whip vibrating violently. He could feel the shockwaves through the ground, resonating with the whip's raw power. He noted the pulverized rocks, a grim reminder of the whip's power. The woman whipped in his direction again, intending to immobilize him first and then interrogate him. Oliver once again dodged. With level 5 strength and his footwork technique, he could somehow keep up with her moves. It was all thanks to his high amount of aspera as compared to ordinary rank 1 exorcists. Nadia was already a genius, but he who had tenfold aspera was a monster in the same stage. This time, the woman made a hand gesture as a black talisman flew from her end and floated ominously in the sky. Oliver saw the talisman and had a bad feeling in his heart. However, he did not wait for her to activate the talisman and instead attacked her head-on. Putting the rapier in front of his chest, his eyes turned cold. The air around him seemed to freeze, and his determination was palpable. The woman in dark robes narrowed her eyes at his stance, wondering what he was doing. Oliver used the move he was familiar with without hesitation. The woman's eyes instantly widened. Danger! The sound of air tearing apart rang in her ears as a purple talisman suddenly emerged in front of her and a dark shield materialized. Bang! Crack! Crack! The woman's heart pounded in her chest as she saw the defensive talisman she had been given crumpling under the force of the boy's attack. Her breath hitched as she witnessed the unimaginable strength he wielded. The shield splintered like glass, shards of dark energy dissipating into the air. It was something that could not be torn apart so easily by a mere rank 1 exorcist. So what was that attack just now? She felt a true sense of danger from that move earlier, and had it not been for her activating the talisman in time, she would not have been able to dodge it at all. You blocked that? She then heard a voice. It was the voice of that white-haired boy. She looked up and met his eyes and was instantly stunned. Death. Her heart trembled violently as she looked into those eyes as deep as the abyss boring into her. The very essence of terror seemed to radiate from his gaze, chilling her to the bone. A cold sweat broke out on her forehead, her body paralyzed by an unshakable dread. Those eyes seemed to be staring right through her soul. She felt naked, as if all her secrets had been revealed under his gaze. Frozen in her place, she could not move her body, it was as if she had been pinned by the world. A strong sense of fear had gripped her mind and heart. Her eyes turned misty as tears started to stream down uncontrollably. Her nose started to bleed, her hands shook, yet despite all that, she could not gather the courage to move an inch. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath, the trees and shadows witnesses to the life and death struggle unfolding. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, but her legs felt like lead, rooted to the spot by the oppressive weight of his presence. It was as if 2 giant eyes were staring down at her from the vast sky, her fate, her destiny, her life, everything in control of those eyes. The more she kept staring into those eyes of death, the more pain she suffered. Her mind felt like it could explode any moment now. The unprecedented sense of fear, this boundless power, this malevolent closeness to death. She felt as if death was in front of her. However, the black talisman that had been floating in the sky for some time suddenly started to emit a crunching sound. A black ray of light left the talisman, aiming for Oliver. Oliver sensed the danger behind the black beam and reluctantly withdrew his gaze. His expression turned fierce, the black beam heading his way was life-threatening. This heretic really wanted to kill him. No kidnapping, just straight-up assassination. Oliver jumped backward and instantly made considerable distance, but the black beam did not crash into the ground. Instead, it bent at an unrealistic angle and traveled towards him. His eyes narrowed. So that's how it was going to be. Come, I have not tested this yet. Let's see how powerful these are, he thought with cold eyes. His hand moved in front of him, and the next second, a pitch-black flame materialized at the tip of his fingers. The black flame didn't stop but kept getting bigger and bigger by the moment. It grew to become so large that it almost covered his torso behind it. Holy flames of nightmare! He joined two fingers together, and the pitch-black flames moved forward like a super-fast flamethrower towards the black beam coming at him. Boom! The black beam and the holy flames of nightmare collided, and the impact made the mountain lands tremble. Its sound was so deafening, almost as if a fighter jet was passing above their heads. The nearby rocks and grass were instantly destroyed by the collision. It was that massive. Oliver's clothes fluttered in the generated impact. However, he stood rooted to his spot, his eyes shining as he observed through the smoke. His heart thudded in his chest, exhilaration and tension warring within him. His lips curled up into a smirk as he saw the destruction the flames had caused. Not only had the flames instantly decomposed the black beam, but furthermore, it was not extinguished even after that and started to decompose the surrounding flora. He released the finger seal he was using to control the flames, and instantly the flames vanished as if they never existed, leaving behind a scene of decay and dread. Truly nightmarish. He wasn't merely fighting an enemy, he was asserting his dominance, making it clear that he was a force she can't afford to play with. The clarity of his purpose was frighteningly evident, and it was this clarity that made him so formidable. Ha! Ha! The woman in dark robes sucked in deep breaths as she panted heavily. Her eyes had dried up tears, and her lips were smeared with her own blood. She panted heavily as she tried to calm herself and her mind that was on the verge of getting destroyed. She was so close to death that her mind was in dismay. Her emotions were in a terrible state as she was having a hard time controlling her mental state. Dark, corrupted thoughts were constantly trying to cloud her mind, wanting to consume her as a whole. Her sensitive ears picked up the noise of footsteps as a pair of white sneakers appeared in her vision. She weakly turned her head up, and the very next moment, started vomiting. What she saw was a horrifying sight. Chapter 177. Instead of the human face of the small boy she was expecting to see, she saw something sinister, something corrupt. A dark being with no features or expressions was looking down at her with a gaze that sent shivers down her spine. Its very presence seemed to warp the air around it, shadows dancing unnaturally at its feet. His entire body radiated a corrupt energy she had never felt before, and just being in the presence of that thing made her want to kill herself. A torrent of negative, evil, and loathing feelings kept assaulting her brain, all of which were trying to convince her to commit suicide right in front of the being standing before her. Shivering, she lowered her head to his feet, touching the ground with her forehead. Please. She choked out, her voice could not be any worse at the moment. She regretted ever coming to this place, she regretted ever choosing to go east over west, she regretted attacking those kids. She did not need to think anymore, she could feel it inside, that she was no match for the power before her. He was not a simple kid, not an ordinary exorcist, she knew it. Just the overwhelming power radiating from him was enough to make her realize where she stood as things were. She should have never come to this place, no, she should have never joined the sect. Had she never joined the sect and turned heretic, she would have never come across this being of corruption. Her thoughts were turning against the very sect she belonged to. She had realized that other than begging for her life, there were no other options left. And even if there were, she could not think about anything at the moment. She begged, drawing out as much of a voice as she could, please, spare my life. Oliver looked down at her, his eyes holding a trace of surprise at the current state of the woman. Just before, he had used sovereign strike of infinite freedom, intending to take her down by surprise, but she was able to counter him in the nick of time. But he already had other plans, and the moment she looked back at him, he had activated the third ability of the cosmic void gaze, in that second. Enshrouding of death, instilled a deep fear directly into her mind, penetrating all her mental defenses. This time, he had used the ability to a deeper and higher extent ever since he had acquired these special eyes. Even when he fought his second brother, he had barely used it in case he killed him, but this time, since the opponent was a heretic whose intention was to kill him, he did not hesitate and used it properly on her. If he had dared to care about not killing her, then he could have died instead. Thus, he dared not take any risks and used the ability to the proper extent. His mind was also feeling quite exhausted after using the ability. He would need to give himself some peace of mind to use this ability again. It was just too draining. He looked down at the woman with cold eyes. He wanted to know what their intentions were and what he had that they used to track him down. He bent down slowly, crouching to the woman's level as he asked, "If you tell me what thing you all are after, then I will spare you." While he had said it in a normal voice, to the woman's ears, it was as if someone was shouting inside her mind, trying to shatter her will. She trembled even more. The voice, it was as if countless ants were crawling on her back with each word the being spoke, making her extremely uncomfortable physically. "Egg." She choked out, wanting to hold on to the hope to live. The being had promised her that he would spare her if she told him. If she told him everything, then he would let her live. If she revealed everything, then she could live. If she sold out her comrades and sect, then perhaps she could even get the being's grace. The desperation in her voice was palpable, each word dripping with frantic hope. It could be seen how affected she was that she did not even care about anything anymore. She was willing to sacrifice her comrades, sell her clan out, and reveal everything just to obtain a sliver of his grace. The will to live overshadowed everything for her at this moment. She did not care about her sect, nor about her loyalty, or turning into a traitor. "Egg?" Oliver asked further, making the woman's spine crawl as she shifted uncomfortably, hearing the voice in her ears. It was as if someone was scraping at her brain the more she heard his voice. "BBSD egg," she said in broken phrases, making him frown. "D disaster. G ghost." She kept stammering, her words incoherent as she seemed unable to even formulate normal sentences on her own. However, Oliver, who processed her words, suddenly widened his eyes the moment he heard the word ghost. How could he not know about the old demonic ghost he had exorcised last time in the forest using abyss energy? Fuck. He immediately retrieved the storage bracelet from his undercoat and quickly threw it in his mind space, cutting off any or all connections it had or carried to the outside world, disabling all tracking marks or anything associated with it. So they were tracking using the ghost storage artifact, some sort of beast egg inside the bracelet they are after? What is it? He thought about what sort of egg it was for them to be so desperate about it. Is it the egg of a disaster beast? He joined her words and naturally arrived at the conclusion. Damn, how did the ghost even manage to get his hands on such an egg? Oliver could not help but exclaim internally about the absurdity of the situation. He knew how rare and terrifying a disaster beast was from the novel. A certain face flashed through his mind when he thought about disaster beasts. He shook his head, dispelling the intrusive thoughts and refocusing on the task at hand. He decided to think about it later. He had pressing matters to deal with at the moment. Since they had come personally to such a place, taking a huge risk, then it could only mean that the thing he possessed was of very high importance to these heretics and their sect. They could not have attacked him inside the Mystic Purge clan unless they had a death wish, so they chose to wait. And when they realized he had come far from the clan to the mountains to train, they took action. He did not know what the woman who was shivering beneath him was seeing or feeling, but for a moment he felt that it was a scene similar to when Nadia had lost control in the car when she used her special eyes to see him. Although he was curious to know what it was and how it was affecting her, he did not have the time to inquire. Evelyn would be here soon, and there was another man who was chasing after others. Wait, weren't there 3 of them? So why have only 2 of them come? He frowned as he thought about the third heretic. It looked like he was guarding the entrance to prevent or stop Sigfur in case he returned. Then he had to hurry up. He looked at the woman trembling under his gaze. His eyes were cold. He had no intentions to spare her after she had tried to kill him. He could not hesitate. His morals had long changed ever since he came to this world, shaped by this world's cruel customs. If he wanted to live, then he could not spare his enemies. A red spear appeared in his hand. He was about to strike when he suddenly jumped backward and dodged a terrifyingly fast flying sword that grazed past his head. Drip. Blood dripped as Oliver slowly touched his forehead. He had just dodged a deadly attack from the flying sword, and he realized that his forehead was starting to bleed from the small contact. His skin, which was as tough as stone, was almost sliced like that, and so easily? Had he been a moment late, his head would have been sent flying. He turned his head towards his right, where he heard footsteps from. His eyes widened as he saw a short man in dark robes walking towards him. The man had a wrinkled face and grey beard, looking quite old. However, his eyes were sharp and vigorous. The old man wielded a gleaming silver sword, its blade inscribed with ancient runes that seemed to pulse with a faint, ominous light. It was not that Oliver was looking at the man's aged face, but what he had in his hands. Chapter 178. It was not that Oliver was looking at the man's aged face, but at what he had in his hands. In his right hand was Alfonso, who was being dragged by his neck, and in his left hand was Amber, who was being dragged along by her hair. Oliver's heart sank, his mind racing as he took in their brutalized forms. Oliver's pupils shook slightly as his heart raced faster and faster with every passing second, looking at their state. They were riddled with deep wounds all over their bodies. Their hands and legs were covered in purple bruises, and Alfonso's face was almost ruined with deep gashes. Alfonso was unconscious while Amber was letting out pitiful sobs, being dragged along by the man who held her by her hair tightly. The man, looking at Oliver's face, grinned as he stretched his hand, pulling Amber's hair more tightly, making her cry out loud. The man's grin widened, reveling in her pain, his eyes gleaming with sadistic pleasure. He seemed to be enjoying her cries as he didn't loosen his grip in the slightest. "How's it? What do you feel? Are you angry?" the old man raised his head and asked. Oliver remained calm on the surface, but his heart was in turmoil, raging with intense emotions. TCH, not a sliver of change," the short man said. "Are all of you lot from Mystic Purge clan born without a heart?" Oliver did not say anything, he knew better than to ask the man to stop. The short man would only do it more and worse the more he tried to ask or threaten him, so he did not say anything and maintained a poker face. "Here is your friend screaming out her lungs, and yet you look so heartless. Not a change in expression? I say this, you all from the Mystic Purge clan do not care about anything other than power? Quite the demons you are yourselves, yet calling yourselves exorcists. What a joke." The man laughed as he mocked the clan. Oliver could feel that this man did not care about the clans at all and bore particular hatred towards his clan. Here this old man was expecting to see great expressions on your face using your friends here, but it seems I made a mistake, even their children are just as insane as them, huh? The man clicked his tongue. Oliver maintained his calm eyes as he looked at Amber crying more and more while the old man kept adjusting his grip on her hair, torturing her more and more. He noticed how she was having difficulty raising her arms, suspecting that he had broken them or paralyzed her. She tried to adjust her position to lessen the pain somehow, but the old man didn't give her any leeway. Oliver's eyes turned deadly when he saw the smile on the old man's face. However, the old man had yet to notice this change. "So? Did I take her with me for nothing then? Is she nothing more than a tool for you, heir of Mystic Purge clan?" the old man questioned with a bold smile and wide eyes. Oliver maintained an expressionless face as he replied in a calm tone, "Indeed, she's nothing but a resource. Her life or death does not affect me or my plans. Kill her if you want." Amber's sobs halted, her eyes widening in disbelief at his cold declaration. The smile on the old man's face widened as Amber, who was weakly struggling in his grasp, slowly looked his way. He avoided her gaze as if she didn't matter or exist and kept his focus on the old man. Amber's eyes had a look of absolute betrayal in them as she looked at the guy whom she once considered a friend. She saw how he was not even bothered to meet her gaze, signifying her worth in his eyes. A mix of despair and rage washed over her, her spirit breaking further with each passing second. A look of despair and hatred enveloped her as she looked at him before putting her head down, mumbling in a hushed tone, "Bastard." However, she kept the tone to herself, not letting anyone hear her. Her head low as she didn't bother anymore. "Impressive, bravo, such ruthlessness and decisiveness at this age. I cannot imagine how you will turn out to be in the future." Oliver did not speak, he had said those harsh words intentionally. He knew if he showed even a moment's worth of weakness, the clever old man would definitely use the two of them as bait to threaten him. He had told him to kill Amber if he wanted because he wanted to make the old man completely lose interest in her. After all, if he was not going to be intimidated by hostages, then there was not really much of a point for the old man in killing the two. The short-haired old man must have already interrogated the two about their identities, and both of them being the heirs of the two major clans definitely put him under pressure. It would not be much advantageous for him to kill the two heirs when he could have his sect or whoever his superior was exchange their lives for ransom and the lives of their captured comrades. Plus, if he were to really kill them, then he could only wait for his death being chased by the forces of the two major clans. They would not let him rest at all and definitely capture him even if he ran to the end of the world. What would wait for him then would be endless torture or a painful exorcism. So, the man had not much of an incentive to take their lives. Oliver did not mind playing his character. The old man shivered as he muttered to himself. It was then his gaze traveled to the woman in black robes kneeling with her head touching the ground. He shook his head. This bitch had always been too arrogant, always looking down on others, and see what she has come to. The old man clicked his tongue before adding, however, she had some skills, at least enough to not be defeated by a rank 1 exorcist at all. For her to be reduced to this state. His gaze hardened, suspicion evident as he studied Oliver's composed demeanor. His eyes turned sinister as he gazed at the calm Oliver and asked, "What did you do to her, boy?" Oliver seemed unfazed by the dense killing intent that emerged from the old man towards him. Instead, he spoke something else, completely unrelated to anything. "You seem to have some history with the Mystic Purge clan." The old man's mocking expression crumpled when he heard his words before the grin on his face disappeared. Seeing this, Oliver further said, "Did the exorcists of my clan beat your old bones to death?" The old man's eyes contained a ferocious glint when he heard this. But before he could say anything, Oliver further added, as if saying to himself, "Doubtful. Had you encountered an official clan member, with your measly strength, you would not have escaped to live." At this moment, the old man's eyes were bloodshot as he heard Oliver's provocative sentences. Then this could only mean that you were defeated by a trainee, an unofficial member, one of the weakest in the clan. Oliver finally concluded and glanced at the old man, only to see the latter shaking in anger with red, angry eyes. This condescending tone, with that expressionless face, "You are indeed the heir of the Mystic Purge clan. Indeed, long ago, I was humiliated by one of your kin. But today, I will pay back the humiliation tenfold." The old man threw Amber and Alfonso with force, sending them crashing to the sides, which made Oliver heave a sigh of relief secretly. He had managed to distract the old man completely from the two. Now they were face to face. He could tell that the old man was stronger than the woman but was very cautious. He was hiding his aura as much as he could. "Today, I will cut off your head, take it out, and sacrifice your blood to demons. Only then will my revenge be considered complete," the old man said in a hoarse voice as he drew out a thin and sharp sword from his storage bracelet. Oliver became alert as he felt a sense of danger from the old man, but upon closer look, he found out that the old man had a few openings in his stance. Yet a heavy, inexplicable sense of foreboding settled in his chest. He could easily exploit those openings if they clashed, but for some reason, his chest grew heavy. So then what is this sense of crisis? He could not help but feel suspicious about the confidence the old man had when facing him with his level of sword skills. Chapter 179. So then what is this sense of crisis? He could not help but feel suspicious about the confidence the old man had when facing him with his level of sword skills. Cough dash. He suddenly started coughing blood. Ha 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 ha. The old man's eerie laughter rang out in the silent mountains as he disappeared from his previous spot and reappeared in front of him. Swish. Bang. Ugh. The old man swung his sword, slicing at Oliver's arm. He tried to dodge, but in the next instant, a fierce and strong kick connected with his abdomen, sending him flying backward. Crack! Agony shot through his chest as he crashed into the ground, feeling his ribs snap under the force. His ribs hurt as he groaned, his vision suddenly becoming blurry too. Poison? Did he poison me? Oliver quickly realized this, his mind instantly going to the small gash on his forehead that the old man had inflicted upon him with that flying sword. That sword was coated with hidden poison. Oliver realized this, albeit late. The poison had paralyzing properties, his body was starting to turn numb to sensations, everything feeling foreign to him. He had earlier seen with his eyes that both Amber and Alfonso were immobile and barely twitching. He should have suspected it at that moment, only that the old man was using dirty tricks. Huh. Huh. He started to take deep breaths to calm his nerves. Now was not the time, he had to destroy the poison first. He could justify that sense of crisis from before now. He was not allowed to think much as the old man was now directly in front of him, looking down at his miserable state. What a view. I wish I could record the moment, but sadly this old man forgot his device back at the headquarters. Ah, what a pity. The old man stomped his foot directly on his chest, further making blood splutter from his mouth. I wonder how your clan would react seeing their heir in such a miserable state. The old man instantly backed off as a huge icicle crashed directly where he was standing, obliterating the rocks and making a deep hole in the ground. He turned his head and saw, on a nearby rocky cliff, a girl with short silvery white hair standing, looking at him expressionlessly. Clang! The old man twisted his body and blocked a sword coming from behind him. He saw a black-haired boy looking into his eyes with anger. How dare you hurt my pal? Daniel's voice was low and dangerous, his eyes burning with fury as he held his ground. The boy said in a scary tone as he parried the old man's sword away. Now who are you, brat? The old man asked in an annoyed tone. He was so close to killing that arrogant bastard, and now out of nowhere, another brat appeared. I am Daniel, the one who will defeat you. Daniel yelled as he jumped onto the old man, pushing the old man back momentarily before the old man swung his sword forward with force, throwing him back. Ugh! Daniel clenched his teeth. Just now, the force from that old man's strike made his wrist hurt badly. This old man is definitely higher ranked than us all. Daniel's aura grew, as a fighting spirit ignited in his eyes, a broad grin on his face as thunder started to crackle all around him. Let me test my full power, he said, and instantly disappeared from his spot with a speed so fast that the old man had to narrow his eyes to look around. He could only catch the silhouette of the brat from time to time, making him angry. How could he, a rank 2, not be able to keep up with the movements of a rank 1? This was absurd. While the old man had reached the limit of his talent, he was not so terrible to be unable to keep up with a rank 1 exorcist. He smashed his foot into the ground, making the ground close to him tremble. Daniel did not delay and appeared right next to the old man, swinging his sword as if it was an extension of his hand. Clang! The old man parried back in the moment, making Daniel quickly back away and appear on the other side of the old man. Clang! 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 The old heretic, clad in a white shirt, was as fast as a spectre with his sword gleaming coldly under the night sky, while Daniel, like a crane, seemed slower than the old man but always managed to evade his attacks with ease. It was as if Daniel was able to read all the old man's moves instantly and find openings to strike at the old man, making the latter more furious. As Oliver had said before, the old man had subpar sword skills and his stance had many openings. With such lacking talent, there was no way he could just brute force his way through everything. Faced with Daniel, a sword prodigy, it was natural that his attacks were easily readable. Damn it! The old man cursed, and in the next instant, he took out a black bag with some liquid inside it. A terrible stench covered the surroundings as soon as the bag was taken out. I did not want to use this, but I am short on time. He looked towards Daniel and smiled coldly. Did you think that my main weapon was a sword? If so, then you are wrong. Poison, my specialty is poison. I am an alchemist, not a fighter, having concocted some of the deadliest poisons of the unholy sun sect. The moment I use this, you can only beg for death. The old man chuckled darkly. Fuck. "Old bastard, are you going to play dirty?" Daniel exclaimed in anger. "Dirty?" The old man scoffed as he said, "There's nothing dirty about it, brat. I am an alchemist, and this is how we fight. It's your fault for being so pathetic to be fooled." Daniel gritted his teeth as he spat at the old man's tricks. "Fucking old bastard. All of you old bastards are so hateful," Daniel said, as his experience with old people had been the worst. "I don't know what you are blabbering. It looks like the fear of death has made you go crazy, ha ha ha." The old man ignored Daniel and looked at the short cliff. The girl was not there. He suspected that she was coming down to help. He was not going to wait and kill these two here, retrieve the egg, and then finish the rest. He would kidnap the others and have the clans fight with each other and ensure chaos. He threw the black bag towards where Daniel was standing, and in a second, a huge black smoke exploded from the bag, as a blackish fluid covered the ground, instantly melting the rocks. The acrid stench of burning rock filled the air, the poison eating away at the landscape like acid. Daniel jumped backward and started to get away from the black fog that was quickly spreading outwards, his speed slower as the fog approached him from behind. "Now that's one taken care of, let's resume where we were." Splatter! A fountain of blood erupted. Before the old man could turn around and face, a sharp pain assaulted his chest. He slowly looked down below before turning around. His vision blurred as the world tilted, darkness closing in from the edges. He had an expression of disbelief as darkness overtook his sight. Even while dying he could only mutter one word. "How?" Behind him stood Oliver, who currently wore an expressionless facade, not a single trace of the poison from before visible on his body or face. "A dead man doesn't need to know," Oliver said in a cold voice as he twisted his sword in the old man's heart, finishing him in a single strike. He watched as the old man fell to the ground like a puppet with strings cut. He bent down and picked up the man's storage bracelet. This time, he stored the bracelet in his mind space in case someone came after him again. He sighed as he looked ahead at the black mist covering the sky. He did not seem too troubled by the poisonous fog. His eyes scanned the area, calculating his next move with precise focus. He sighed as he looked ahead at the black mist covering the sky. He did not look to be too troubled by the poisonous fog. And he had the reason to be. With abyss energy residing inside him, how can ordinary poison of some old maniac hurt him? Earlier when he had realized that he had been poisoned, he immediately used abyss energy and devoured the whole poison quickly, making him free of any ailments or negative effects. However, his ribs still hurt from the impact, so he consumed a health potion while he watched Daniel battle the old heretic. Chapter 180. He was quite impressed with Daniel's talent with swords. Despite the enemy being a rank 2, he did not fear him and kept fighting, exploiting the latter's blind spots. Swish! A pitch-black flame emerged from his left hand as he pointed a finger toward the black smog, shooting a small fire lance toward the screen of poison. The lance cut through the air, a streak of darkness against the dense fog. The poison was flammable, and the fire instantly spread out, consuming the fog within seconds. When he saw the fog was completely gone, he cut off his aspera, and the black flames disappeared, leaving behind a barren and destroyed land. He didn't stop and walked up to the old man's dead body. He could see a trace of dark aspera, which did not belong to humans, leaking out of his dead body. If he let the dead body stay longer, it might give birth to demonic beasts in the ecosystem of this mountain, contaminating the environment. This was also why exorcists had a duty to deal with the dead bodies of these heretics after the fight, to prevent any unforeseeable events in the future. Oliver placed his palm against the old man's chest, and reddish-black energy erupted from his hand, instantly enveloping the old man. Within seconds, the old man's body disappeared from the face of the earth forever. A strange warmth surged through his veins, a faint pulse of power igniting within him. A warm feeling surged in his heart as he felt a burst of power in his body. Clenching his fists, he felt as if his strength had increased again. He saw Daniel lying far away and reached up to him. Upon closer inspection, it did not seem like he was affected much by the poison. He must have evaded the fog by a hair's breadth, rendering him unconscious. Oliver picked him up, placed him underneath some leaves and bushes, and went ahead to carry Alfonso and Amber as well. Boom! Just as he was settling them, he heard a loud banging sound from the opposite direction. He instantly moved in the direction of the sound. In the distance, he could see another terrible scene. Evelyn and Nadia were both kneeling and bleeding, and in front of them was a burly man with red patches all over his face. He looked repulsive and sinister. The man's eyes gleamed with malice, his twisted smile revealing a set of yellowed teeth. The man was barehanded and had an ugly expression on his face. Oliver could see the man's arms burned with ice piercing his legs. So they were here. He had been wondering where they had gone and why it took them so long, and here they were, engaging with the third heretic. Oliver furrowed his brows. The burly man had a powerful aura, and murderous intent filled his surroundings as he walked. In a second, the man disappeared from his spot and reappeared behind Evelyn, his fist connecting with her back as she screamed in pain. Oliver did not wait and closed in on their location. Another sword appeared in his hand as he jumped down. Tap. The burly man turned around as he heard the sound of tapping. He saw Oliver standing with a sword. Oliver! Evelyn's eyes widened. She could not help but feel regretful. Not only had she been stopped by this heretic and was almost losing, but since he had come here alone, did it mean that the woman was dealt with? She could only suppress her doubts in her mind and focus on the man. Oliver, watch out. This man has unnatural strength. Stay back and attack from a distance, engaging him up close would be too risky, she warned. Oliver, who heard her, nodded. He had already expected as much. When he used his special eyes to scan the burly man, he found that the man had very low aspera compared to the other two heretics. It was likely he was also a physical exorcist but didn't focus on training his aspera, only on his brute force. This, along with the bulging body of the man, was enough to make him aware of his strength. The burly man furrowed his brows and said, "When we entered, there were supposed to be 6 of you detestable exorcists. Now there are 3 of you here, but where are the 2 who came along with me? They should have finished while I was sleeping." Hearing his words, Oliver raised a brow as he remembered the trap array Amber had set up. It looked like the man was trapped in the array formation and was asleep. Oliver put one hand behind his back as he looked at the towering man. He spoke, "If you are searching for your 2 heretic teammates, then you shouldn't. They have already been exorcised, and you're next." The man's face darkened, his fists clenching at the news. The man's eyes narrowed as he heard the words of the kid before him. He did not doubt his words, they were nowhere to be seen, and he was unable to detect them either. Were they actually exorcised by these exorcist brats? Fumes started to rise from his head as his face turned even redder than it already was. He looked extremely angry at that moment. Keep scowling like that, and your face might just get stuck that way. Though, I doubt anyone would notice the difference. Oliver said calmly, but his words sounded extremely provocative to the burly man's ears. Like a bull, he charged straight at Oliver, no longer caring about anything. He did not care about the old man at all. But that woman, she was supposed to be his in the future, and now this white-haired brat said that she was exorcised? He did not hold back as a flood of anger clouded his mind instantly. Oliver took a deep breath, seeing the man charging right at him. If he was hit by the man, even he did not know how many bones he would break in his body. However, he had no intention of taking him head-on. What's wrong? All those muscles slowing you down? Or are you just too heavy to keep up? Oliver snickered as he provoked the charging bull even more while he himself ran further and further from Evelyn and Nadia, drawing the man out of range. With his agility, he did not face much issue keeping a minimal distance between them. Looking back, he nearly cursed when he saw the burly man closing in. Damn. Even with his level 5 strength, he couldn't keep up. Was this the true gap between the strength of a rank 1 and rank 2 exorcist? Oliver doubted. These heretics were just handymen, they were partial ranks, not true rank exorcists. The power between the two was incomparable. It was only because of this that he was able to exorcise the two heretics higher ranked than him with some effort. Otherwise, if heretics truly started to achieve the power of true ranks like exorcists, wouldn't the demons easily cause humanity too much damage? The fact that Dark Aspera was not compatible with the Aspera training methods of humans was already widely known, and this was also why the major clans didn't pay too much attention to the pesky sects, given their hands were already full with demons. "You're dead for laying a hand on her," the man roared behind him, sending tremors through his ears. "She's his? That woman?" Oliver thought of the woman. He had not exorcised her. He was interrupted by the old man before that, so he did not know where the woman went. Given her mental state, Oliver was not worried that she would cause more trouble for him later. He could search for her after dealing with all these heretics. "That woman? I exorcised her myself. You should have seen her face, begging for your revenge, but it was too late." Oliver did not really know the actual relationship between the two of them, but since the man said she was his woman, he assumed they were lovers or something. "Face me, you spineless coward," the man yelled from behind. He was further outraged when he heard his words. Did that mean that she also harbored the same feelings for him as he did for her? If so, why would she always avoid him before? His Orcish mind could not understand, but since he had marked her as his woman in his mind, he would slaughter all those present. He would give the brat running ahead of him the most brutal and painful death ever for hurting his woman. However, just as he was chasing Oliver, he saw the kid suddenly stop ahead of him. He did not stop and sped up, charging right toward Oliver, intending to destroy him. A predatory grin spread across his face, sensing victory was near. Chapter 181. On the other hand, Oliver, who saw the man rushing at him, had a cold glint in his eyes as he assumed a quick stance, with one leg stretched behind and one hand closely aligned with his chest. His breath steadied, every fiber of his being focused on the impending strike. He lunged forward. His palm lashed out at a terrifying speed, colliding with the man's frenzied charge. The power of the eternal 12 Lies palm, previously held back due to insufficient Aspera, now surged forth with full force. The man's eyes widened as his instincts suddenly screamed at him to dodge, however, it was already too late. Lost in madness, he could only try to defend. Boom! Arc dash! Swish! 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 The burly man clenched his jaw tightly as his vision suddenly darkened. For a moment, he found himself in a dark space all alone before 12 illusionary giant figures appeared before him. Their forms were towering and ominous, each one exuding an aura of pure malice. The shadows of the figures loomed large, each one more imposing than the last, suffocating him with their sheer presence. His body flared up as the danger reached its peak. He saw all 12 of those giants looking down at him before they moved. All of them, in unison, struck out their palms in his direction, crushing him from all sides. Their forms remained unwavering. To them, he was nothing more than an insect, a mere pest to be crushed by their overwhelming might. Arg dash! The man roared as his eyes turned bloodshot. He exerted his body's strength, every muscle contracting as he endured the impact. Bang! The man was thrown backward into the air, crashing far into the mountainous rocks. Spit! A glob of blood was all he could manage to spit as even the air seemed to struggle in his lungs. His mind raced, desperately trying to make sense of the overwhelming force that had just hit him. The impact was too powerful. Even someone as powerful as him was left reeling. He could only imagine how brutally his comrades had been vanquished by this kid. He was no ordinary kid, the two girls from before were nothing in front of him. He could tell since he had just suppressed them both. One of them was even a light element awakened individual. He could understand if she had this much power, however, this boy, who clearly had no relation to the light attribute, displayed such power. It surprised him. How could someone so young possess such devastating strength? It defied all logic. He was only rank 1, and the difference was already this much. Moreover, the boy did not seem too worried from the beginning. It was as if he had calculated everything beforehand and their existence was not a threat in his mind. The realization that they had been underestimated from the start gnawed at him, deepening his despair. The burly man gritted his teeth as cracks appeared in the heavy body armor he was wearing, which was also an artifact he had been given by the sect. My artifact broke. Just how terrifying was this impact? His eyes, which were earlier ablaze with fighting spirit, were now replaced with a hint of fear and wariness. It was an uncommon rank artifact, and it was not something that would break so easily, given it was a defensive artifact. For it to break meant that the opponent was too powerful for him. But how could this be even possible? Was it truly power, or was there something more sinister lurking behind those strikes? That kid was clearly a rank 1 exorcist from his aspera, he had felt it earlier. So how could his artifact break from the impact generated by him? He could only imagine what would have happened had he received a direct blow from that terrifying palm move. Fuck. The Mystic Purge clan are all monsters, even their kids are monsters. We should not have messed with them. He suddenly felt regretful that he had volunteered for this mission. Their leader was still nowhere to be seen, probably still engaged with the expert from outside, and his 2 comrades had already been exorcised, leaving him alone. Alone and outmatched, the weight of his earlier bravado now felt like a death sentence. He did not dare imagine what would become of him if he returned to the sect empty-handed. He could not flee either way, it was a do-or-die situation for him too. I can only put my life on the line. The burly man slowly rose to his feet, his eyes turning fierce. Ancient lords of the darkness, I offer my soul as tribute. Grant me strength beyond mortal limits, even if it costs my very essence. The burly man began an incantation in a guttural language, his eyes losing their luster until only a void remained. Then, a transformation began, his eyes blackened completely, as if consumed by darkness itself. It was then that he heard a familiar tapping sound, and there stood the white-haired boy, unperturbed, landing in front of him with a practiced ease. Survived, did you? Impressive. Oliver's lips curled into a smirk. I was hoping you'd be carrying something worthwhile, but it seems you've got nothing but your desperation. How unfortunate. So, there's nothing worth taking from you after all. Oliver mocked as he looked disdainfully at the man who was earlier so arrogant but now had all the nerves in his body shriveled up just from the impact of the strike. The mastery of Eternal Lie's 12 palms had indeed not disappointed him in the least. He felt quite good overpowering an opponent a rank above him like this. It was only possible due to the enemy being hollow inside. These heretics only had borrowed strengths from demons, it was not unheard of them being exorcised by lower-ranking exorcists. He curled his fingers into a fist as his gaze gradually became colder. He felt no pity for the man, only a cold detachment. He did not feel any regret or hard feelings when he earlier killed the old heretic. To him, they were nothing and had intended to kill him, he simply exorcised them from this world. Your eyes? Oliver paused, looking the man in his eyes, causing the man to take a step back. Under his gaze, the burly man felt as if his body was cut open and his soul was present naked before the kid. Die. Without responding further, the burly man's left hand started to glow as dark aspera began to gather in his left palm. The tremors in the air surrounding the man grew more intense as the dark aspera filled in. A huge arrow, condensed from dark aspera, emerged in the man's hand as his eyes turned deadly. He struck forward, intending to sweep Oliver, the force behind the attack significantly faster and more powerful than what he had shown earlier. The very ground seemed to shake under the weight of the man's desperation-fueled attack. Oliver drew out an axe from his mind space and immediately swung it forward, a blue streak of light appearing forth, clashing directly with the black power. The impact of the dark aspera gradually lessened, but it started to absorb the water aspera that was contained behind that axe strike. Oliver twisted his hand and threw the axe toward the man. The rapid speed made the man quickly put his hands forward as more of the dark aspera began to release from his body, blocking the strong axe flying forward. A sacrifice of servitude. You've truly lost all hope. Oliver remarked, eyeing the man's grotesque form. The man's demonic eyes widened in disbelief as he unintentionally asked, "You knew?" Oliver's eyes flashed with a knowing gleam, though he offered no explanation. The man, who saw the white-haired boy readying his fist again, felt a true sense of fear as he quickly scurried backward, stumbling over his feet. For the first time, he realized that death was closer than he had ever imagined. Oliver's eyes narrowed, and suddenly he leaped off the spot he was standing on, like a streak of black light, sweeping across the sky. In the blink of an eye, Oliver was in front of the huge man, and the wolf-headed demons along the path burst apart sequentially. Oliver sneered and launched his attack before the burly man could even react. Too fast. The burly man's pupils dilated as he instinctively thrust his palm toward Oliver. Ah! Lost in fear and madness, the man lunged at him, throwing a strike at him. Oliver dodged and hit the man right in his solar plexus. The moment of impact was swift, leaving the man breathless and broken. Oliver's fist was faster as it punched straight through the burly man's abdomen. The terrifying force of the punch continued onward, shattering a series of rocky mountains in its path, and the fierce winds lifted all the rocks on the cliff into the air. With a boom, the azure light curtain in the attack forcefully surrounded the man, and together with the overwhelming power of the eternal 12 Lies palm, the man's bones and organs were shattered. Bang! Another powerful impact, and the man's body went limp as he crashed back into the rocks. Time to face your exorcism. Chapter 182. Your end is now. Oliver's fingers moved in a deliberate gesture, and black flames erupted, consuming the man, erasing him from existence. Oliver sat down on the ground afterward and slowly lay back, heaving slightly. His muscles quivered with fatigue, every breath labored, as if the battle's weight still lingered. The silence that followed was almost surreal, the echoes of the battle fading into nothingness. The calm after the storm was unsettling, as though the world itself held its breath, waiting for something more. Espera gathered around him as he guided it through his body, filling his now depleted reserves. He closed his eyes and rested for a bit. A moment of peace in the midst of chaos, however brief, was a luxury he rarely afforded himself. The battle had been taxing, but the relief of victory was fleeting, like a shadow slipping through his fingers. Victory's taste was always bitter, laced with a cost that could not be ignored. He began gathering Espera at a fast pace, thanks to his high talent. It would not take long before he was back to his peak again. Yet, the urgency to recover quickly gnawed at him. He knew there was no time to waste. Just as he was settling down, his instincts started to warn him again. This time, a very heavy feeling settled on his mind. It was as if the air itself had thickened, suffocating under the weight of something dark. A cold shiver ran down his spine, the air thickening with an ominous presence that couldn't be ignored. His heart skipped a beat, the instinctual dread creeping into his bones like an unwelcome guest. He instantly got up and looked back, his complexion not too great. Ah, don't tell me Sigfur did not manage to win? His mind raced through the possibilities. The thought of Sigfur's defeat didn't just unsettle him, it terrified him. Sigfur was their anchor, without him, everything could unravel. The eerie silence was broken only by the faint rustle of leaves in the wind, a sound that now seemed far too ominous. Oliver could feel it, a disturbance in the air. His senses sharpened, picking up the faintest hint of a presence approaching, one that was neither friend nor foe, but something else entirely. He clenched his fists, his body still aching from the previous battle, but he knew there would be no time to rest. Rest was a luxury he could not afford, survival demanded every ounce of strength he had left. His heart pounded in his chest as he strained to listen, every muscle tensing as he prepared for what was to come. If another powerful enemy was approaching, it meant things were far more complicated than he had anticipated. The situation was spiraling out of control, and he knew he was running out of options. He cursed at the uselessness of the old man. What kind of veteran was he, then? A veteran who couldn't win when it mattered most was more of a liability than an asset. His eyes changed colors as the world before him shifted, changing into nothing but a transparent detailed view. The familiar sight of his enhanced vision brought clarity, but also dread. What he saw confirmed his worst fears. this? He frowned as a swirling mass of black energy drew near their location. It was massive, far more massive than any of the heretics combined. He could feel goosebumps just from seeing it closing in. What in the world is that? Oliver knew the answer to his question. It was likely that the heretic heading their way was the leader of the earlier group of 3 heretics. He did not have the confidence to fight against that swirling black energy at all. The mere thought of confronting such a force sent a chill through his veins. He had to escape with the others before the person arrived. Fighting was no longer an option, survival was the only priority now. Well, escape was the first thing that came to his mind. He wondered about possible scenarios he could create to escape. His mind raced, calculating every possible route, every possible outcome, but each seemed more dire than the last. He still had some cards up his sleeve, confident that he could escape if the worst came to the worst, but what about the others? His escape might be assured, but abandoning the others was not an option. The guilt would be unbearable. His main concern was ensuring the safety of the others. They were the future hope of humanity, and he could not let them die in a place like this. The burden and responsibilities on his shoulders would be immense if he acted alone. The weight of their lives pressed down on him, making the air feel even heavier. Wait, what if I do that? Oliver murmured as his eyes shone with a clever glint. He walked towards the place where Nadia and Evelyn were supposed to be and saw them healing their injuries while meditating. A plan began to take shape in his mind, a risky one, but the only one that might work. I apologize, but what is about to come is too dangerous, and I fear that I won't be able to hide my abilities any further in front of the entity. So you two must sleep. With a thought, his figure blurred, his speed even faster than what he had displayed against the heretics, as he appeared behind the 2 girls stealthily. Before they could even realize his presence, a swift blow to their necks sent them unconscious. He could not help but feel a little awkward. He had used more force than he had anticipated. After all, he did not know where the pressure point was to knock them out, so he could only depend on force to render them senseless. His lack of finesse was regrettable, but there was no time to dwell on it. Fortunately, he was careful enough not to break their necks. He picked them both up and carried them to where the rest of the group was. Laying them in a discreet spot, reddish-black energy started to swirl around him as the air seemed to crackle with tension the moment the energy was released. The power he unleashed was raw and primal, a force that bent the very fabric of space even. He noticed the frown on Evelyn's face and shook his head. The reddish-black energy flowed as gently as water despite its chaotic nature under his control and slowly enveloped the 5 of them like a big dark cocoon. The cocoon of energy was their shield, a fragile barrier between life and death. After finishing the process, he looked at the dark covering enveloping the group and smiled. They should be undetectable for the time being. A small victory in the face of overwhelming odds, but he knew it wouldn't last long. He looked at the entrance of the mountain with keen eyes and jumped down the rocks, slowly descending. He could tell the enemy was almost here. Creak! The door to the mountain entrance creaked open, and a tall man with long hair entered with calm steps. As soon as the man entered, his gaze was locked onto Oliver, examining him with interest. The intensity of the man's gaze was unsettling, as though he were dissecting Oliver with his eyes alone. Oliver, feeling the man's gaze, felt an unpleasant sensation spreading throughout his body. It was as if the man's very presence was a poison, seeping into his veins and clouding his thoughts. "Are you the heir of the Mystic Purge clan, kid?" the man questioned in a calm, unbothered tone. "State your name." Hearing Oliver's words, Jettia raised a brow. Why did he feel that the kid before him was exceptionally calm and bold? It did not seem like he feared him at all. Did he not realize who he was and the aura behind him? To make sure he understood, Jettia released a torrent of his dark aspera, enveloping the entire mountain base in an instant. "Now tell me, are you the one from the Mystic Purge clan or not?" Jettia asked, this time his tone more overbearing. He already knew that the kid was from the Mystic Purge clan, given his white hair shining distinctively, but he wanted to hear it from the kid's mouth. He wanted to crush that arrogance from before. However, a calm voice rang out again amidst the terrifying pressure. "Did I stutter?" the voice asked. "Introduce yourself." Jetia's head snapped up to look at Oliver, his eyes showing a surprised expression, clearly not expecting him to be able to endure his aspera. His expression twisted momentarily before he regained his composure. "I am Jetia, one of the 12 saints of the Unholy Sun sect." "You seem quite skilled for a rank 1 exorcist," Jetia smirked. He added, "Now tell me, are you the one? You are not worthy enough to know." "You." Jetia's smile crooked. Chapter 183. Where are my subordinates? He narrowed his eyes and tried to sense their presence, but he could not detect anything. His frustration grew, a sharp edge of anxiety creeping into his thoughts. "They have been exorcised," Oliver stated calmly, making Jetia pause his search. Before the latter could say anything, Oliver added, "You don't need to search for them, for you will be joining them soon." Those arrogant words made Jetia look at Oliver as if he were viewing a fool. The idea that this boy could defeat his subordinates was laughable, and yet, there was something unsettling about the calmness in Oliver's tone, a conviction that gnawed at Jetia's confidence. "I didn't know that the heir of the Mystic Purge clan was this delusional. It looks like your clan has finally lost its last working screws." Jetia sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. Yet beneath the mockery, a flicker of doubt lingered. Jetia's aura intensified as he said, "I don't know how you managed to pull off that stunt you claim. But you will soon be answering me for everything anyway." A pitch-black shadow emerged from behind Jetia, around 7 feet tall and wide. It was like a ghost. "First, let's capture you." Jetia looked at Oliver in a sinister fashion and waved his hand as the giant ghost behind him moved at tremendous speed, aiming for Oliver. It was upon Oliver in the blink of an eye, however, Oliver was unfazed. His expression remained unreadable, as if he was merely observing an insignificant event. Waving his hand, a huge tide of blue aspera crashed against the ghost, immediately pushing it back. The clash of energies was explosive, sending shockwaves through the air. Such aspera. Jetia's eyes turned keen as he sensed the aspera that could not belong to a mere rank 1 at all. He concluded that Oliver was using a unique rank artifact to conceal his strength and aura. Otherwise, he would have seen through it instantly. The realization struck Jetia like a hammer, shaking the certainty he had held moments before. But this revelation only stoked the fire of his curiosity. So the confidence stems from this? Jetia laughed to himself, he had not expected such a clever kid. But his laughter was hollow, masking the unease brewing within him. Indeed, if this was the case, then he might surely have been able to exorcise those 3 together with the others. I can't sense the auras of the others either? Jetia looked around. Did they really get killed or what? He grinned and mocked, but the confidence in his voice wavered slightly. For the first time, doubt began to gnaw at him. Oliver did not respond, which further made Jetia believe this was the case. Such a pity, he shook his head and looked at Oliver. The clans are surely going to go crazy after this. I was planning to slaughter everyone on my own, but it seems that my useless subordinates did the work for me. Turns out they were not entirely useless after all. Jetia did not show a hint of care or regret about the fact that his heretic subordinates had died, and this was normal. For heretics, other than their extreme fanatic intent towards worshipping demons, very few things mattered. To him, the loss was negligible, showing the insignificance of the 3. "Enough yapping," Oliver said in a low tone, his voice cutting through Jetia's taunts like a blade through mist. "Since you want to die so badly, then die." Jetia was really furious, this was the 3rd time he had been provoked by Oliver. He could not take it lying down. Today would become a day where all the 5 major clans would mourn. His fame would skyrocket after he dealt with the last remaining heir. Jetia's body suddenly released powerful dark aspera, suppressing everything. A huge gorilla phantom figure materialized in front of Jetia, as the tall ghost from before converged into the phantom. Jetia's eyes shone with luster as he scornfully looked down at Oliver. He spoke, "Behold. Before you die, I will let you witness the true might of Jettia, the one this world knows. The sight of victims instilled with fear is something I can get drunk on. Ha ha ha. Oliver's expression remained unfazed, though a cold glint flashed through his eyes. His calm demeanor only seemed to agitate Jettia further, the saint's amusement beginning to sour. It's a pity. Jettia paused as he glanced at the boy looking at him with calm eyes, clearly not the expression of someone afraid of death at such a moment. That calmness unsettled him, even if he refused to acknowledge it. Oliver slightly raised his hand, his fingers stretched out as he made a waving motion towards Jettia. What did you say? Before Jettia could ask what he wanted, his pupils dilated as an overbearing sense of dread enveloped his mind. His instincts literally screamed at him to escape, however, it was too late. He did not know why or what, but the hand sign Oliver showed made him feel goosebumps all over. All he saw was a flash of red streaking towards him at a speed he could not keep up with before everything went black. Huff. Oliver huffed slightly as he retracted his hand. Just that one move had consumed almost 90% of his abyss energy. His breath was ragged, the exertion taking its toll, yet his expression remained steely. He did not hesitate to use his trump card instantly, even if the opponent before him was a heretic with borrowed strength from demons. The gap between the ranks was quite vast. He did not know what rank the person was at, but he could not care less about it. The enemy was extremely powerful for his current level. If he had any chance to take down the enemy, it was to do so in one attack. Of course, he had to attack sneakily in a way that the enemy's guard was not high, otherwise, there was a chance that the other party could defend themselves, which would not have ended well afterward. And he did exactly that. Using more abyss energy than necessary, he channeled and put forth everything in his single attack to strike Jettia earlier, intending to finish him off in one move. No one was more aware than himself that using that much of his abyss energy was unnecessary, but he was too cautious and did it anyway in the end. If he had to say, only 40% would have been enough to defeat Jettia, but he had never experimented with it before, so he fumbled slightly and used too much. Not to mention, Jettia's move just now gave him too dangerous of a feeling, so he did not hesitate to use almost all of it. Now he was drained of both Aspera and abyss energy at the moment. His Aspera was still recovering, but his abyss energy was not, for some reason. What's happening? He frowned and thought for a moment. He had no clue how to refill abyss energy again, nor had he ever needed to. There must be a special method or technique to gain it back. I will have to think about it in the future as soon as this is over. He shook his head tiredly. He did not feel regretful for using all his reserves. If someone as strong as Jettia could be killed, then it was all worth it. He could feel the weight of exhaustion settling into his bones, but it was a small price to pay. His life was naturally more important than anything. Now what to do? He looked ahead, and not even a piece of Jettia remained anymore. The abyss energy had consumed everything. Only the lingering traces of dark Aspera gave any indication of the battle that had just taken place. Well, I am sure they will handle it on their own. Oliver shook his head and gazed into the distance, his eyes turning a strange light for an instant before returning to normal. I should go with the others. Oliver disappeared from his spot, reappearing where a dome of abyss energy was enveloping some kids. Touching the abyssal dome, the abyss energy retracted back into his body as the energy shield disappeared. Making some space, he lay down between them and closed his eyes as well. The fatigue of battle finally catching up to him. And as he had expected, soon enough, loud thunderous sounds erupted all around the mountain. Allison, with a bunch of people, stormed inside the mountain hall, destroying the barrier and formations in the process. Her eyes were cold as she extended her senses, covering the entire mountain in a single breath, her presence as enormous as the mountain itself. The individuals beside her were not ordinary either, all of them carried an extraordinary presence of their own. Chapter 184. She was notified the moment the barrier on the mountain was attacked. Since she was the one who had set up the barrier, even minute changes to it were felt by her. The subtle shift in the air alerted her like a whisper of danger. Seeing someone attack the mountain in her absence made her immediately return from whatever she was doing. Her return was swift and purposeful, the urgency clear in her every movement. In fact, she had gone to fetch Bella back from her training. The individuals beside her were the ones who had been responsible for helping Bella with her element. Their presence brought a reassuring strength to the situation. She knew something was up since Sigfur had not informed her of anything. Her instincts, honed by years of experience, told her that this was more than a simple disturbance. It was most definitely a planned attack targeting the heirs of the major clans in her absence. The audacity of such a maneuver was not lost on her, it spoke of desperation or bold overconfidence. "Where are the kids?" one of the figures asked in a deep voice as he headed towards the dorms. His voice carried a note of concern, echoing the tension in the air. I sense Sigfur's Aspera. I will go to him." "Teacher." Suddenly, a girl with platinum blonde hair jumped down and approached Allison, who had her eyes closed, searching the mountains. "Found them," Allison whispered to herself and vanished from her previous spot, appearing in front of a strange sight. Her brows furrowed as she observed the kids sleeping peacefully before her, arranged in a neat row, as if placed intentionally. The eerie calmness unsettled her, as if they were part of a larger puzzle yet to be solved. She made a hand gesture to see if it was an illusion or trap but found none. She walked up to them, and before she could say anything, Oliver suddenly jumped up, startling her. His abrupt movement was a stark contrast to the serene setting. "Whoa! Where am I?" "Huh? Teacher Allison, what are you doing here?" He looked at Allison with confused eyes and asked cluelessly. "Before that." Allison took a deep breath and asked him, "What are you all doing here? What exactly happened?" Her tone was gentle but firm, seeking the truth amidst the chaos. About that." Oliver recounted his experiences quickly, naturally omitting the scene where he exorcised the heretics on his own. And then a man with a white faceless mask suddenly appeared out of nowhere. "I thought he was also going to attack us, but instead, he knocked all of us out. The last thing I saw was him and the heretics being hostile to one another." He paused and watched Allison's reaction keenly. She had a deep frown on her face as she pondered his words. Her mind raced, connecting dots that didn't quite align. She couldn't understand how the situation had turned out. The layers of the mystery seemed to deepen with each revelation. A group of heretics decided to target the kids and were then intercepted by an unknown man. Something was odd about this whole thing that she couldn't quite comprehend. The pieces were scattered, and the picture remained incomplete. How could so many people infiltrate through her barrier? The breach was not just physical but also a blow to her pride. "Well, good job. Because of my negligence, you kids had to suffer." Her words were tinged with regret, a silent vow to do better. She patted Oliver's head and smiled, while the latter smiled wryly. "Oliver." He suddenly heard a familiar voice and turned to look behind him, only to see the girl who was the most sensible among all the kids. "Bella. You're back?" He waved at her as she came running up to him. "What happened? Why are Evelyn and the others lying down?" She looked worriedly at her sister and the others and went up to them. Oliver also followed behind, briefing her about the situation that occurred some time ago. "What, so much happened?" Bella looked sad as she gently stroked Evelyn's hair, retrieving a green shining liquid in a vial and starting to pour it into Evelyn's mouth. "Oliver, help your friends. Here." Allison handed him a few more tubes of healing potion as she went back to gather more details and investigate. She would have to prepare a proper explanation for the clans too. She believed it might be possible that the person who rescued the kids and dealt with the heretics was someone from the 5 major clans sent undercover to protect them. The thought of a guardian in disguise was both reassuring and intriguing. Still, if it's someone skilled enough to remain undetected by me, then it should be possible for the masked man to be strong enough to deal with the heretics alone. She wondered what would happen now that this had transpired. The Unholy Sun sect could now be considered as good as gone once she informed the clans about their deep involvement in this matter related to their heirs. She hoped they would clarify things more properly. For now, she needed to see Sigfor and discuss this with him. Alfonso, you okay? Oliver asked as he helped him drink the potion. Alfonso slowly opened his eyes and sat up against the grass. Aye, what happened to the heretics? He asked, looking around hurriedly. Calm down, they have all been dealt with. Teacher Allison has returned with reinforcements too. His words were a balm to Alfonso's frayed nerves. He didn't explain about the masked man and other details but simply told a few things to temporarily keep him calm from asking more questions. The color, which had drained from his face earlier, slowly returned as he accepted the news with a heavy heart. He could still vividly recall the scene of torture in his mind. Oliver noted this and decided to later ask Allison to send Alfonso for some psychiatric therapy. No matter what, for a child to go through so much, it was understandable that their minds would still be unstable. Rest well. I'll go wake the others. He then woke up Daniel, who started coughing violently. Chapter 185. Rest well. I'll go wake the others. Oliver's voice carried a gentle assurance as he moved to rouse his companions. He then woke up Daniel, who started coughing violently. The sound was jarring, breaking the calm that had settled momentarily. What the fuck? Don't spit on me. Oliver quickly stepped back as Daniel spat everywhere. Oh Oliver, dude. What happened? Where's that poison bastard? Daniel asked angrily as he stood up. His eyes darted around, still half caught in the nightmare they'd just escaped. He's been exorcised. Teacher Allison has arrived and will handle the rest, Oliver calmly briefed the agitated Daniel before turning his attention to Amber. Bella had already woken up Nadia and Evelyn, leaving only Amber. Each of them bore the marks of their ordeal, but relief washed over their faces as they regained consciousness. Sister, you must listen to me. They were really powerful. Evelyn chattered nonstop now that she was reunited with her sister. Bella listened attentively, gathering details to report back to the clan. Her sister's words tumbled out, a mixture of fear and excitement. Oliver slid open the vial and began to slowly pour the potion into Amber's mouth as she began to stir awake. Hey, Amber. Oliver's voice was soft, coaxing her back to the waking world. Slap. Suddenly, the group froze as the sound of a slap echoed through the surroundings. They all turned toward the source of the sound to see Amber looking hatefully at a guy facing away with a red handprint on his cheek. Don't talk to me, you scum. Amber yelled in anger, her eyes filled with hatred. The words cut through the air, sharp and unforgiving. The air thickened with tension. He touched his cheek where the slap had landed but felt nothing. His hand lingered, as if trying to understand the sting that wasn't there. With his toughened body, all he felt was a small itch from the earlier impact. The physical pain was absent, but the sting of her words remained. Oliver was momentarily stunned before realizing the reason for her outburst. It seemed she genuinely believed it was him. If you're angry over that then. Before Oliver could explain further, Amber stood up and looked down at him, repeating, I said. Don't talk to me. With that, she left the scene, refusing to explain or listen to anyone. Amber, wait. Alfonso quickly hurried after her, nodding once at the others. His steps were quick, propelled by a need to mend the rift that had formed. Oliver pressed his hand to his forehead, wondering how to handle this situation. Nadia narrowed her eyes at Amber's earlier display and was about to go teach her a lesson for disrespecting her clan. Her temper flared, a spark ready to ignite into a blaze. She was confident Oliver had saved Amber from the heretics, and Amber had the nerve to be so ungrateful. Nadia, wait. Don't be impulsive. Evelyn quickly got in her way, explaining how her hasty actions might cause a rift between the two major clans. Her words were a plea for reason, a shield against escalating tensions. Either she apologizes, or I throw her to the demons, Nadia stated simply yet coldly, troubling Evelyn. Bella sighed as she approached Oliver. Patting his shoulder, she said, Stand up. Let's talk to Teacher Allison. Oliver also sighed deeply as he stood and followed her out, knowing Amber wasn't interested in listening to him. Resignation settled over him, a silent acceptance of the path ahead. It was better to leave her alone for now, he didn't have the energy to deal with her tantrums. Looking back, he felt that working solo was the right approach for him. Later, they saw Allison with Sigfur, whose clothes were bloodied and riddled with holes. It looked like Sigfur had also suffered while the heretics attacked them. Sigfur saw them and quickly rushed over to apologize, and soon the matter was resolved. It was decided that everyone would be sent back to the clan, and the training would end early. No one objected, and soon their escorts arrived to transport them back to the clan. Regardless, Oliver still felt it was worth it. He was better at using the water element and his weapon skills had improved. In the end, he exchanged pleasantries with the others before leaving. There was not much talk between him and Amber, even then. Back at the clan, he finally returned to his courtyard after almost a year. "Zippy!" he called out as he saw a fat white cat running toward him. The sight brought a rare smile to his face, a reminder of simpler times. Oliver looked down, astonished. The cat had become much fatter than before. How did you get so fat?" He turned to his personal maid as if to ask her the question. "Sesha, what have you been feeding her?" he questioned. "Meat, young master," she replied in a light tone. "Huh? That's it? What about exercise?" "That." Sesha's expression turned complicated. "Young master, Zippy doesn't like it." "What?" Oliver had a bewildered expression on his face. "You." He looked down at the fat cat rolling at his feet lazily and picked it up with some effort. "Meow." The cat's soft protest was half-hearted, as if resigned to its fate. "Do you want to eat meat?" he asked. "Meow," the cat eagerly nodded. Zippy nodded but suddenly paused. A glimmer of suspicion flickered in her eyes. "Wait a moment. Something doesn't seem right." Despite being away from Oliver for almost a year, she still knew him better than others. When he asked in such a sweet tone that sounded too good to be true, it was usually a trap. Zippy suddenly became alert and vigorously shook her head. "Oh? You don't want meat? How can that be?" Oliver smiled darkly as the cat attempted to escape, but his grip was too strong. "From now on, you will be on a strict diet. You will also exercise daily to get back into a shape that resembles a cat instead of a potato." His words were firm, a decree of tough love. Like a thunderbolt, his words struck the cat deeply. Zippy sweated upon hearing his words, not daring to imagine life without meat. But looking at Oliver's stern expression, she knew there was no scope to argue or emotionally blackmail him. "Sesha, take this fat log for some exercise." Oliver quickly found an excuse to save himself from Sesha's scrutiny and told her to take the clan guardian away. "I'll do as you say, young master." Sesha nodded and carried the despairing fat cat away. "Now then, it's been a long time since I met Jenna. I should go see her. It's about time I paid some attention to the matters of the organization I joined long ago." Chapter 186. Now then, it's been a long time since I met Jenna. I should go see her. It's about time I paid some attention to the matters of the organization I joined long ago. His eyes turned serious as he contemplated his next course of action. Earlier, he had been hesitant to make a move, but now he felt confident in his abilities to act. He needed to restore his abyss energy, and for that, he would have to venture outside the clan. He might as well seek Jenna's assistance in the meantime. "So, you have finally decided to show up?" In a luxurious room, a woman with great curves sat cross-legged, her arms folded under her ample chest as she looked at the little boy who had grown since the last time she saw him. Oliver saw her piercing eyes and shook his head. She was as strong as ever, her aspera glowed like a miniature sun, as vast as a mountain. The sheer intensity of her aura pressed down on him, like standing in the shadow of a giant. She was probably on par with Allison or even stronger than her, at least in terms of aspera. This observation stirred a mix of respect and caution in Oliver. He was always curious what such a person was doing in the Mystic Purge clan and how they had allowed such a powerful outsider to remain with them for so long. Did she act behind the scenes? Jenna noticed his blank expression and smirked. She had naturally been informed by her subordinates about his departure and untimely return. Her smirk was a knowing one, reflecting the information she had gleaned about recent events. Just a bit of digging allowed her to learn some interesting details about how he and the other heirs from the major clans had clashed with the heretics of the Unholy Sun sect. Why would heretics from the Unholy Sun sect target you kids? As far as I know, they aren't ones to actively seek death by offending 5 major clans at once. Her question hung in the air, demanding an answer Oliver wasn't sure he had. She stroked her chin as she asked him with keen eyes, "There must be something they desperately wanted from you kids." Oliver was secretly impressed by her sharp intuition. To be able to deduce such a thing among so many possibilities, he had to admire her ability. Jenna looked at him for a moment before letting out a mysterious smile. "Intuition, maybe?" Haha. Oliver laughed nervously. "Perhaps. I'm not sure of their plans either way." "Is that so?" She raised a brow at his behavior and leaned back in her chair. "Putting that aside, are you interested in improving your rank within the organization now?" She picked up a document as she asked him. "That's right. I was hoping to leave the clan for a while and focus on my position, starting now," he nodded. His voice was steady, masking the inner turmoil of his decision. "Why the sudden interest?" she asked without looking up. Her tone was casual, but Oliver sensed the underlying curiosity. "Well, I just feel that being in the clan won't benefit me at the moment. Despite being allocated resources, it feels like it's not enough right now." "Do you think so? After all, we're talking about one of the 5 major clans. You could try to improve your clan rank too. With the resources and natural advantage you have as an heir, you're bound to grow stronger either way," Jenna said as she flipped through the documents one by one. Well, I feel more inclined toward this right now, so I want to proceed with that." Oliver didn't explain much and simply told her. Jenna finally put down the documents on her desk and looked at him seriously. "I don't mind. As your superior, I should normally be encouraging you to take missions. However, your circumstances are special, and that's why I need proper clarifications beforehand. But since you've made up your mind, I won't stop you." She paused, observing him intently. Her piercing stare made him twitch slightly in his seat, as if she was boring a hole through him. "You seem to have undergone significant changes as well. Suddenly gaining such a large amount of aspera despite being born talentless. You seem to have quite deep secrets," she judged. "We all have our secrets, don't we?" Oliver retorted playfully, making her raise a brow. "Indeed. We all do," she said with a bewitching smile as she leaned forward. "But not all of us have the strength to protect those secrets." Oliver looked her in the eyes, trying to understand the meaning behind her enigmatic words, but alas, she concealed herself too well. "Anyway, I'll brief you about the system in the Black Codex Federation. The Black Codex Federation is a vast organization, with its influence and power on par with a major clan of its own. It operates from various places, having branches in almost all cities or towns of the human territory. Not only that, its influence extends into the demon world as well. The organization has resources that exorcists would die for, and with resources, the organization naturally has wealth unlike any other. We can even boast of having wealth greater than some clans. Climbing higher in the organization would naturally provide you with the corresponding benefits and incentives. The organizational ranking is pretty simple. It starts from the Baron rank and moves up to the Emperor rank. Pretty simple, right? Oliver interrupted her and asked, "So, the organization follows the basic aristocratic rank system for their members?" "Yes, you got that right. The greater your rank, the more power you can exercise and the more benefits you will enjoy," she nodded. "What benefits, for example?" he wondered. "Well, there are plenty of them. For example, the hierarchy in the organization is quite strict, and you must listen to your superiors, those with a higher rank than you. You will have the power to command and mobilize those below you in rank. The bases we have all over the world will likewise function in the same manner. The higher your rank at that base, the more control you have. Chapter 187. Not only that, but as exorcists grow in rank, it becomes increasingly difficult for them to rise to higher ranks and build a foundation for each rank. You'll see how the ratio of growth is exponential compared to the rate of resources you'll need. And all of these resources can be accessed through the organization. Jenna stood up from her chair and walked up to the window. Looking outside, she could see the bustling clan market. Her eyes scanned the crowd, taking in the chaos of merchants haggling, customers bartering, and the distant hum of chatter that filled the air. Of course, you're under me, so you will naturally receive some level of protection too, but that's it. Unless you raise your rank on your own, there's not much you'll be able to do. The Black Codex Federation has its own web, as you might have seen. That web is very important, and you can do most things through it alone. You might not know, but we don't often deal in Nedden. Instead, we have our own established currency called credits, which is the only thing you can use to get resources for yourself. You can earn them by completing specific missions that are also accessible on the Codex web. Lastly, to raise your rank within the organization, you can undergo a rank-raising mission. These are usually much harder than normal missions and are issued only on special request. Of course, to prevent members from abusing the system, the whole system is monitored by an AI, and there are penalties for not completing the mission. Ah, you must not know about AI, right? Jenna suddenly paused. Her reflection in the window, faint but visible, showed a brief flicker of realization. It seems I was too engrossed in explaining that I forgot about your age. Well, it doesn't matter much, you can ignore that part. Other than that, you should have gotten an idea about the basic system? Don't worry, I understood it well. Oliver nodded in understanding. He could fully grasp what she had said, and his mind was filled with all sorts of knowledge he could remember from the novel as well. So it's like this. Jenna narrowed her eyes and didn't say much. She walked behind him and patted his shoulders. Wait here for some time. Let me get you your first mission and some equipment you might need. Before she left, Jenna smiled. Also, don't touch my things, or I will be mad. Oliver shivered when he saw her smile. She smiled like a fox. A playful threat, but one that carried an edge sharp enough to cut. With that, she soon left, leaving Oliver alone. Oliver exhaled lightly and went on to sit in her plush leather chair, bouncing on it for a bit. The leather creaked softly under his weight, molding to his form as if welcoming him. What material is this chair made of? So comfortable. He enjoyed the feeling of the cushion as he rummaged through her desk with interest. Each drawer slid open smoothly, revealing an assortment of neatly arranged documents, pens, and other paraphernalia. Of course, if she had told him not to do it, then he had to do it, otherwise, he wouldn't be himself. What is this? He picked up an old black pocket diary and fiddled with it before opening its pages. Unexpectedly, all the pages were blank. A blank diary? Oliver looked at it. The diary looked used, and it was quite clear that the woman was using it regularly. However, it was completely blank. The cover was worn, edges frayed, yet the pages inside were eerily pristine. Could it be a coincidence? With the knowledge of countless novels, he could claim with 100% certainty that this was definitely not the case. The next moment, his eyes glowed with a strange light as the world before him burst into countless colors, becoming more defined. Things that were hidden were revealed as he glanced around. The air seemed to shimmer, layers of reality peeling back to reveal hidden depths. He could not help but exclaim secretly as he observed the room. This woman had modeled the whole room with countless hidden weapons. This was less of a room and more of a huge, dangerous weapon ready to be deployed. What sort of plans was she concocting in this clan market? If the clan were to know about this room filled with all sorts of dangerous weapons, concealing exorbitant quantities of aspera inside, they would definitely not let this slide. This was akin to a kingdom hosting weapons of mass destruction from another kingdom within their territories. They could be activated anytime and cause an unprecedented amount of damage. Oliver's pulse quickened as he imagined the catastrophic potential lurking within these walls. Too risky. This woman would be really screwed if this got out somehow. Well, he didn't have any plans to snitch anyway, he was just surprised to see her so well equipped. Not only that, but he could spot multiple hidden entries and passageways extending to various places in this room. Behind the bookshelf, under the desk, beside the couch, beneath the lamp. The room was a labyrinth of secrets, each hidden door leading to who knows where. He shook his head and looked back down at the diary in his hand. He couldn't help but smile as text started to become visible on the previously blank pages. So, she was using special ink. He started to read the contents, hoping to learn something about Jenna. But as he read more and more, his brows furrowed deeply. The content seemed to be deeper than he had expected. Flap. He closed the diary and took a deep breath. Closing his eyes for a moment, he thought about what he had read. Her purpose is this deep. He couldn't help but say to himself as he put the diary back in its place and returned to his seat. It turned out that Jenna's background was far from simple. She had come to the clan with the purpose of revenge. Chapter 188. It turned out that Jenna's background was far from simple. She had come to the clan with the purpose of revenge. From the diary he had read, although brief, he realized some significant things about her life. It seemed that the diary was a record of important events in her life. She had noted down some points that he had quickly read all at once, thanks to his special eyes. The speed at which he read was extraordinary as well. Originally, Jenna belonged to a small clan deep in the mountains called the Ashen Rose clan, an unknown, small clan hidden deep in the mountains. The clan was nestled in a valley, surrounded by towering peaks and dense forests, cut off from the rest of the world. It could be said that it was not a widely known clan, just a small, insignificant one. However, things changed shortly after. Out of nowhere, the peaceful clan was suddenly attacked by a group of deadly assassins. The night was dark, with no moon to illuminate the village. The only light came from the torches the assassins carried as they descended upon the clan as it was described in the diary. What followed next was a deadly massacre of the innocent people of the Ashen Rose clan. Screams echoed through the night, cut short by the swift, merciless strikes of the assassins. Blood soaked the earth, turning the once peaceful village into a scene of horror. People who did not know why they were being killed. Who killed them? And whether their deaths were in vain or not. It was a cruel scene of torture that enveloped the entire clan. It was heart-wrenching for the members of the small clan. Mothers clutched their children, trying to shield them from the violence, but there was no escape. The assassins showed no mercy, their blades cutting down everyone in their path. They didn't have resources people would be envious of, they hadn't offended any superior powers, they were just living their daily lives. The clan head of the Ashen Rose clan was a peaceful woman who never involved the clan or herself in greater human politics, always maintaining a neutral stance. However, they still always aided in the war against the demons. It could be said that the clan was one of the few that adopted principles of selflessness even in the cruel modern world, without seeking any benefits or advantages for themselves. Yet they suffered such a cruel and horrible fate of annihilation. Even the children were not spared. Their cries for help were swallowed by the chaos, their lives snuffed out before they had a chance to understand what was happening. The children were not spared by the onslaught of the unknown deadly assassins, it was severe. They tried to fight back but were proven helpless against a mere group of assassins. Jenna Sullivan was the sole survivor of the Ashen Rose clan, the only person who managed to escape the slaughter and survive. She had hidden in a small underground chamber, one only she knew about. As she listened to the carnage above, her heart hardened with every scream that reached her ears. For reasons unknown to Oliver, she somehow managed to avoid that day of slaughter where all of her clanfolk were mercilessly killed. It was not mentioned in her diary either why she managed to escape the calamity that day, but one thing was clear. She had vowed on that day to never live in peace until she avenged her people, until she hunted down the one responsible for it all, the source of it all. The tears she shed were the last she allowed herself, sealing away her grief to fuel her desire for vengeance. Oliver did not know how she got to where she was now, but one thing was crystal clear. Her purpose here was revenge. And the perpetrator who orchestrated this whole ordeal? The one Jenna had her sights set on? One of the 4 supreme elders of the Mystic Purge clan. One of the founding pillars who had been there as long as the clan had existed. Her target was that individual. The sheer audacity of it left Oliver momentarily speechless. Such audacity, yet such will. Oliver felt a stir in his heart. This was no trivial matter after all. One of the supreme elders of the Mystic Purge clan was a being in a realm where most exorcists could only dream of reaching. A realm so powerful that every exorcist would dream of it more than once. And Jenna wanted revenge against someone like that? Oliver doubted whether or not she was capable of this. Not only was the Supreme Elder an existence countless people looked up to, but besides their individual strength, they also led their own factions, which were rumored to be just as extraordinary as their strength. A figure of immense power, surrounded by loyal followers who would lay down their lives at a mere command. It could be seen from the group of assassins, who most likely belonged to the Supreme Elder, that they had managed to wipe out a small clan effortlessly, the clan in question being the Ashen Rose clan, naturally. Jenna wanted revenge against one such Supreme Elder of the Mystic Purge clan, which meant she required strength equal to or greater than that of the Supreme Elder and likely influence. He didn't doubt her influence, considering how she was able to recruit him into the Black Codex Federation. This was enough proof that she was a higher-up in the organization. However, he couldn't help but wonder if that was enough. In the end, what mattered most was individual strength. He didn't care about her affairs. As for worrying about a growing plot against his clan? If the Mystic Purge clan were weak enough to fear or be threatened by someone's revenge, then it would have ceased to exist long ago. The Mystic Purge clan had countless enemies, both human and demon. They were not weak enough to be shaken. Yet, there was something about Jenna's resolve that made him pause. A woman who had survived such horror, who had built herself up from nothing, was not to be underestimated. Chapter 189. In fact, Oliver was in quite a dilemma regarding this situation. He did not know whether the clan had intentionally allowed Jenna, someone bearing a seed of revenge in her heart against the clan, or if she had truly managed to bypass the clan's detection using her skills and wits. If it was the latter, then she was truly a dangerous woman who should not be offended unless necessary. Her ambition was as vast as the sky itself, her resolve as unyielding as the mountains that once sheltered her clan. It was hard to believe that the sole survivor of a clan that had gone extinct decades or perhaps even centuries ago was now plotting revenge against one of the supreme elders of one of the 5 major clans in this world. It was simply inconceivable and bold. He did not know who would emerge victorious in the end. In the novel, there were no mentions of the Ashen Rose clan or the higher politics of the Mystic Purge clan either. It was not unheard of for small unruly clans to offend major powers and get wiped out overnight or be invaded by demons and declared heretical. It was simply a matter of time to see who would emerge victorious. Would it be the power reigning at the top of the Mystic Purge clan, or would it be a girl from an unknown clan that once existed? Underscore 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 underscore. Did you touch anything? Jenna asked, her voice low and edged with suspicion, looking down at Oliver suspiciously, who quickly shook his head. Jenna merely hummed, then went back to sit on her chair, crossing her legs arrogantly. The confident way she carried herself, the casual arrogance in her posture, made Oliver feel as though she owned the entire room, and perhaps, in a way, she did. Looking at the arrogant woman in front of him, Oliver felt speechless. She really knew how to be overbearing if anything. Anyway, he had nothing to do with it. Did you get it? He asked curiously. Here it is. She slid a paper toward him. The document seemed ordinary, but the weight of what it represented made Oliver's pulse quicken. But before he could pick it up, she said, "Now that you have finally stepped into the realm of exorcism as a rank 1, have you thought of the meditation technique you will be using?" About that. Oliver paused as the words rang in his mind. He knew what she was talking about. An Aspera meditation technique. A technique exorcists use to develop and grow their Aspera as they climb through the ranks. However, he had never paid much attention to such a thing. With the system, he had the privilege of being exempted from the hard work of meditating for countless hours to develop his Aspera. All he had to do was wait for his target to achieve a milestone, and then he could naturally obtain tenfold benefits. But he still had to choose one on the surface, otherwise, he would not be able to justify his growth. About that, I have been given the clan's secret manual, he replied with a smile. Jenna nodded. The Mystic Purge clan's secret manual was extremely refined and potent, having been improved over centuries by countless expert exorcists. It was a technique exclusive to pure-blooded members of the clan. It was no surprise that he was given one to train with. That's great. I was initially thinking of giving you the one I have been using, but the Mystic Purge clan's technique is indeed more suitable for your bloodline, she said thoughtfully. Oh? Oliver was interested but didn't say anything. He knew that while a technique was essential, it wasn't the be-all and end-all. A technique was merely a means to bring out an individual's talent. If you were not born talented, then even if you had the best technique, it would be useless and wasted. It was important but not too much for an exorcist. Other things mattered as well. He picked up the paper containing the details of the mission he would be undergoing for the first time. Huh? You want me to go to a normal human city? He couldn't help but exclaim as he read the details on the paper. Indeed. It is as you can see in the mission details, she replied calmly. Oliver saw this and looked at the paper he was holding, his eyes narrowing as they scanned through every single detail mentioned in the well-written document. The mission was related to a normal human city, more specifically a suspected cursed playground. It was located in the city of Harlington, on the western human continent, far from the battlefield. According to the mission, there was an old playground that had recently become the center of a series of disturbing incidents. Children who played there had been experiencing nightmares, sudden illnesses, and strange behavioral changes. From the information the organization had, it was most likely a signal that a dark artifact had been born in that area and had slowly started to inflict dark aspera on the normal human area. His goal was simple: to find the artifact and bring it back. Depending on the rank of the artifact, he might even receive a ton of credits on his first mission. More importantly, as a newbie in the organization, it was crucial how impactful his first mission turned out to be. It might very well determine his reputation in the Black Codex Federation. I understand the specifics of the mission, but you know that my main issue is not that, don't you? Oliver put the paper down and looked at her. Seeing his serious expression, Jenna had a playful smile on her face. Her eyes sparkled with amusement, as if she found his concern charming. She still found it funny that the person talking to her so casually was still a kid. He doesn't even realize who I am, or I wonder if he would still be able to remain so casual. Chapter 190. He doesn't even realize who I am, or I wonder if he would still be able to remain so casual. She mused as she replied, I am aware of that. Don't worry, I selected that mission with that in mind. Your main concern is to leave the clan, right? Oliver nodded. Don't worry, I have arranged for you to be issued a clan mission in a nearby city. It should be fine, she said, tilting her head slightly. Oliver sucked in a deep breath as he heard her. She had already installed moles in the clan at a high enough position to influence the missions assigned. What a terrifying woman. You have taken deep roots in the clan. Are you sure about it? He asked, genuinely wondering what was in her head. Are you worried about your boss? She smiled and asked in return. Maybe? He put on a thoughtful expression. If she were exposed and caught, would he also not be in trouble for colluding with her and joining another organization while still being in the clan and enjoying its resources? He could be said to be worried about her in that way. Ah, what a cute little boy. Jenna smiled in a way that wasn't quite a smile, her tone was sarcastic as she narrowed her eyes. But you don't need to be concerned about me. The game I am playing is indeed dreadful, but I am quite the experienced player. Is that so? Good for you. Don't draw too much attention, or I will also be in trouble, Oliver scoffed. Humph, you little brat. Care about yourself. With that overflowing aspera, you better find a way to conceal it, or you might be in more trouble. Jenna arrogantly crossed her arms below her chest and said. Her aura turned more domineering by the moment, filling the room with an invisible pressure. I will see to that, Oliver smirked. Thanks for the mission, boss. He soon left her office and went back to his courtyard. He had just arrived, and now he would be leaving soon. He was starting to get busier from this point. He spotted a familiar fat cat lazing on top of his couch, snoring as it dozed off. She probably ditched Sesha. Oliver shook his head as he thought about it. How could a mere maid contain the clan guardian, no matter how dumb the latter was? He ignored the snoring cat and went to the secret spot behind his courtyard. It had been a while since he visited there. He scanned through his belongings in the mind space and retrieved the storage bracelet of the demonic ghost. Now that he was in the clan, he didn't fear getting tracked down by other heretics. Ah, it's locked by a rune. I should have asked Sigfur to teach me how to break them. Oliver groaned as he smashed the bracelet on the ground. Maybe I should ask for help from an elder knowledgeable about runes? I doubt they will just dismiss me as before. He wondered if he should use the clan's help in decoding the runes. He knew that the old ghost storage bracelet had advanced protection runes embedded in it, so it would not be easy to decode it with just basic rune knowledge. He would need to obtain more advanced techniques and knowledge about runes. It's a pity Evelyn has yet to enter the stage where she would start getting interested in runic studies, so I won't be getting rune ability-related rewards anytime soon. The only one I can depend on is myself, he said in a hushed tone. It was then that suddenly something happened. Ding! Target has learned the first level of divine sword arts after undergoing rigorous training. Achieved mastery in arts belonging to divine order. Ding! Obtaining 10x benefits. Contradicting nature, adjusting parameters. Abyssal arts obtained. Suddenly, a huge flood of information burst forth into his mind as if someone had opened a door to a new world for him. His eyes widened slightly as his mind jolted with pain. Ugh! He groaned slightly as he gently touched his forehead, organizing his thoughts. As more and more information entered his mind, a change seemed to be taking place. His eyes turned more and more blank, as if he were undergoing a transformation. Ah! He let out a sound without a certain meaning behind it, as if he were in a trance. It took a moment for him to snap back to reality, but when he did, his facial expression became complicated, and his eyes narrowed. So, that's how I need to grow back abyss energy. He said to himself, looking down at his palm. The reward he had obtained this time was knowledge about arts from the abyss and how he needed to grow back his abyss energy. Apparently, it was a method that went beyond the scope of any morals and ethics he had learned about. The heart. An organ that functions as the source of life in any being. A source of life and vitality. A heart was not limited to the normal heart that humans had, it was the core that facilitated life in creatures. What does a heart have to do with anything here? One might think that, but in fact, from the information he had received, the heart was the only thing that could help him regrow the empty reserves of abyss energy back to how they were. In essence, what he would require would be the heart, the core of life that makes a creature functional and alive, for him to be able to restore and grow his abyss to greater heights. Just the thought of using somebody's heart made him feel sick to his stomach. But after calming down, he realized that he should have expected such a sinister thing to appear when he had chosen the path of the abyss. Not to mention, the other information about abyss arts that he had received in exchange for the divine swordsmanship, that was just as sinister. The path of the abyss was not laid with flowers, unlike the path of divinity, it was a path filled with thorns and corpses. Now onto the abyssal arts.